Hello, user. Cat is live. Debatable. Hello, Dragon Roach. It's here.
Some of the Dragon Balls. Oh, there's 5.
Another Dragon Roach. Hello, user. Okay, the hitbox on the Dragon Roach is weird. I also don't have a good weapon for it. I have a freaking grenade launcher.
Oh, what the hell?
.380, run burning, run.
Where?
On you.
Oh, wait, no, I'm at the flag.
Have fun. Good luck.
Got it.
Hello, chat. Sorry about that. Got a little distracted. Hope everybody had a good Friday. Okay, I just got the go live tweet out. Do me the favor, go give that some love. And let me grab you guys today's sauce. Hey, Cad, will you be rolling? Mostly sarcastic. No, I will not. Okay, I got it. Make sure I got it for YouTube as well. Here we go. Okay. Get this plugged in and we're good to go. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Here is today's artwork. Go give the artist some love. Again, like I said, I hope everybody had a good Friday. Welcome to the weekend. I certainly am happy to be here. I last night basically broke a month-long streak of just having no sleeping issues, because last night, for whatever reason, I just did not sleep well. I tossed and turned all night. I woke up several times. And so today at work, I was just tired. So it was what it was. But I managed to make it through the day, but I'm happy that it's the weekend and I don't have to suffer through that anymore. So I'll be catching up on some sleep tonight, probably. Rule now is if it's not a saber face, he's skipping. I wouldn't say if it's not a saber face that I'll skip, but realistically speaking, I don't have a pressing need on either of my two main accounts to actually roll, right? And then from there, it really just boils down to, do I like the unit and do I think they're worthy of rolling on? Obviously, for saber faces, probably yeah, right? Like, but in terms of like other units, it's going to be very hit or miss. Personally, and I'll just like be transparent with you guys. Just go ahead and start out this way, but I feel like I'm not the biggest Nemo fan. I actually do kind of find the character intriguing. I do like, at least to an extent, what they've done with the character. It is a unique spin on that character that we've never seen before. But I also don't like how they've kind of like feminized the character. I don't like how they've basically turned him into like a Shota. And I also feel like personality-wise, he is different from how Nemo actually should be. So there is like, on one hand, the Captain Nemo that like everyone should know, and then there is FGO's Nemo, and I find those just to be like, it's different. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what it is. Now that being said, and I will probably like, well, no, I guess I'll just go ahead and say my piece on it here, but personally, I feel like if they were going to do Noah in the game and they were going to go, okay, we're going to use Nemo and we're going to make him AoE, that's fine. There's no issue with that. My issue is, why the heck is Santa Nemo a thing? Santa Nemo is largely redundant, and actually I feel like just cheapens the character at this point. So for me, I go, now you have 3 writers, 2 of which are similar to each other, and it really makes me think that this kind of took some of the wind out of the sails here, that if we hadn't gotten Santa Nemo, Noah coming in as Nemo would be a bigger deal. And everyone would be like, oh my god, this is like actually amazing because we haven't gotten like Nemo stuff in forever. And also he's Noah this time around. Versus now with us having Santa Nemo, I feel like a lot of people are kind of just like, it is what it is, right? Like I've seen a lot of like just kind of mixed reception to today's event and today's unit because of that. So I feel like they really shouldn't have done Santa Nemo. They probably should have gone with a different welfare back then for that event. And yeah, that would have changed who the event was about. But at the end of the day, it just makes me kind of go like, I wonder how much they were even thinking about that. Like, were they actually thinking about, hey, we're going to put Noah into the game in the future and how that would look? And I suspect that they didn't. Like that's, I think, what's more worrying to me more than anything. It's like they can do however many copies of Nemo they want in theory, but like, I think it's more worrisome that it feels like they are just going year to year. They don't use any sort of like foresight or any sort of like, hey, maybe we'll do that in the future, and they just kind of run with it. And I don't think that's a good thing, like long term. Maybe should have made Santa Nemo an alter ego. Yeah, I don't really know, right? I'm just gonna say, to me, it largely feels like Santa Nemo was a little bit of a bust. And to be fair, when Santa Nemo got announced as the Christmas welfare for that year, I was not a big fan of him. I thought that was one of the worst welfare announcements they had ever made. And I think like that's probably just my own personal bias talking. I don't like hate the character by any stretch of the imagination, but that one felt like it was a relative dud to me. Now, performance-wise, the welfare is actually fantastic, so there's no issue with that. It was just simply the case of like, wow, you probably should have gone with a different character. And now almost 2 years later, I come back to the stance that I had almost 2 years ago, and I agree with it again. I find myself going like, wait, yeah, why did you do that? So it's really odd to me. I also got another bone to pick with lasagna. They brought back the Tunguska pay-to-win banner Cs that are damage and give bond bonus. Yeah, so at least it sounds like the raid event this time around is better. Like, I think we're just getting one raid to my understanding. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be like a huge deal with regards to like, oh man, we got to like wake up at like 2 a.m. to farm the raid. Like, that sounds good. I'm happy that they at least did that. But yeah, it does sound like they at least like this event seems very Tunguska like. I don't know about the story necessarily, but this event seems to be Tunguska 2.0. At least in terms of like structure and how they are handling the bonus units. For instance, I believe every single Tunguska bonus unit is also a bonus here because of how Nemo works. Nemo basically gives buffs to all demonic beasts and all animal-like characteristic servants. So Nemo literally ends up overlapping entirely with the entire like Tunguska bonus lineup. So it's kind of funny in that regard. They made it for arcade but never thought of bringing him to mobile. Yeah, and I think that's kind of like a little bit of my gripe, right? Because that tells me that like there is something rotten in Denmark. If behind the scenes you made a character for arcade and you didn't think you were going to bring him over to mobile, like, really? I've always been under the impression that every arcade unit would come over, maybe with one exception, and that exception being Sita. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I do find it like really weird that they seemingly have taken the stance. What's the whole thing with Noah? Where does he come from? Is it from LB plot? No, I mean, like, specifically Noah first was the thing in arcade. As for relevance to FGO proper, you're gonna have to read story for that. I mean, historically / biblically, Noah is somebody from the Old Testament that basically he comes from the flood myth of like, oh, God flooded the world. Noah basically got everybody together and said, get on my boat, and saved the quote unquote worthy creatures. So what arcade units do we not have yet? We have most of them. I think there's still things like male Jacques de Molay, there's still Sita, obviously, and then like I think there's a couple of like the Christmas units that we don't have, but beyond that, I don't really know. I don't think there's much of anything else besides that. Yeah, Santa Suzuka, I think it's also Santa Helena, was it? Or am I misremembering? Santa Fran, maybe that's who it was, yeah. Which, let me be honest with you guys. Why didn't we get the 3 arcade units for the Christmas that we got Santa Nemo if they were going to bring Noah out? Tell me I'm wrong. That seems like a smarter decision all around. That seems like that would please far more people. Also Archer, comma, yeah. Nebuchadnezzar's basically Caster Gill, but like, yeah. I want to see quality releases for the arcade event tracks. Chad, I'm just spinning down my storm pods right now on an A. Because I think I was like up to 6 of them. I think they decided to make Noah when they decided to do Grand Duels. I think so too. And I think extrapolating and going further back, I think they did not plan to do the arcade units. Then they realized that there was demand for it. And then they went, shit, let's bring some of them over. And then they realized there was still demand even after the ones that they brought over. So I think they have changed their stance. The difference here is, I'm just going to say that they have to be pretty dumb if they didn't think that people were going to want the arcade units. Like, you put them on arcade to sell arcade to people. Why wouldn't mobile want them? If they were successful units on the arcade side, of course mobile would also want them. You'd have to be stupid to assume that that's not the case, right? Like, so I will still fault them for, they shouldn't have needed to change their stance in the first place. It should have been a case of you should have always been planning it. And them not doing that is just poor leadership on their part. It's poor management. It's poor planning for the future. And it just makes me go, what the heck are you guys doing? Right? So I don't know. That's why, like I said, like ultimately at the end of the day, I kind of just worry about this. Like going a little bit more meta and getting off of like Nemo in general. It's more like the connotation of kind of what this means that makes me go like, that's just really odd. And I don't know why you guys aren't thinking about stuff like this. Surely they must have seen many in Onore Arcade. I think Onore Arcade was mostly from the English side, ironically enough, but it is what it is. Actually, I say that. I definitely saw Japanese people bitching about arcade too, so yeah, I don't know. They must have seen it, I agree. We get Sita, but she can't be on the same team as Rama. That's wild, right? Like, they're never allowed to meet each other in the hallway. Can't be in the same room. Yeah. But no, honestly, it's an interesting thing. If you're wondering, like, what the deal is, by the way, chat, with the JP event, there isn't. Like, it is literally just like 5 AP story nodes for right now. There is no, like, actual event to do. Okay? So, in that regard, JP has, like, nothing at the moment. The raid will be happening Sunday. So there will be that. Although I gotta talk because I think it's a D&D night Sunday. Let me double check with Bob. Okay. Sita as an alternate skin for Rama may not be deployed with a support Rama. That would be wild. That would actually be wild. Okay, there we go. Got all the storm pods done. Now I can do the next section. So I'm going to assume this section is silver, since this one was bronze. Let me double check to make sure. Yeah, okay, I still have all the C's enabled. I can tell a lot of people did not roll Wandjina. Did you redeem your last over the Sky Sea? Ooh. Ooh, I don't know that I did. Is it still available? How big is the girl you're going on dates? How big is she on the Fate IP? Anime only, delve deeper. Well, what do you mean? How big is she? Like, are you asking her weight? Because I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm not sure I'm at the status point of wanting to ask. Is she a big fan? Okay. So she likes Fate. She has seen UBW and Apocrypha, and she did really like them. But she is not like I guess you could call her, she is a casual fan, right? Like, she's not somebody that's like, she's watched every Fate anime, she's played the visual novels, she plays FGO, right? Like, that's not the case, obviously. Cat hasn't reached the social link to ask yet. Let me be clear, chat. You could be married to your wife for 40 years and you would still not have the social credit score to ask her weight. That one's always dicey, okay? Like, just say. Because it's not even that you couldn't, it's the thought that comes after of like, why is he asking? That's what will get you in trouble. Okay? It's not that she couldn't answer. It's, why is he asking? And like, what does he mean by that? That's dangerous thought line. That's the kind of thing they tell you. Yeah. That's like, if they want to tell you and divulge the information yourself, go for it. But I don't think you asked that without a very good reason. Just don't bring her into degeneracy by introducing her to FGO. I'm sure at some point she's gonna know. Like she knows I play. And she thinks it's cool, but like, I don't think she has any desire to get into it herself. And that's fine. Like, I think that's honestly, it's like the best case scenario for me. Like, sorry, I had something in my mouth. Just literally, I feel like getting somebody that was also degenerately into FGO would make a dysfunctional relationship. And like, you could tell me if I'm wrong, chat, but I feel like that would probably result in some like some bad decision making. Here, chat, I'll use my own Noah. The tan surfer chick. Bring her to the dark side, Cad? No. You don't ask a woman's age or weight. Yep. I mean, I know her age, but that's just, it is what it is. I have to calibrate my bat grapple launcher. Listen, chat. Listen. Where is it? Let me find you guys the link, okay? Because Andre sent me this the other day, and you know what? When he's right, he's right. Tell me he's wrong, chat. Have her follow your new player guide? Yep. But then I'd have to update the new player guide. I suddenly imagine Cad leaning in and said, "I've got a new player guide, you know, nearly choked on my water." No, I'm much smoother than that, Jay. I wouldn't tell her it's my guide. I would just give it to her. I'd be like, here's a new player guide. Use that. And then like eventually she would like be like, "Hey, this is pretty good." And I'd be like, "I know." And she'd be like, "Oh, did you use it?" And I'd be like, "I wrote it." That's how you do it. So that's why I'm not Batman yet? Correct. Parents are an invention of the state to deter vigilantes. Yeah. I was talking with Zoo the other day, and Zoo was like, "Give me 5 minutes with your parents and I'll make you Batman." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know exactly what he's gonna do." Think she'd find the channel via the guide first, though. Um, if she really wanted to, she could probably find the channel. I have not told her the channel yet, and chat, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. One, I don't need that complication right now. Two, eventually, if I do, I'm sure at first she would probably like lurk. Okay? And three, I would probably clap anyone trying to mess with her. So it would just be what it was. So I'm not sure you want that to happen. He's ashamed of us, Sag? No, not in the slightest. I just know how Twitch chats can be. And I have seen other streamers that have relationships, so I know how some of that stuff goes. So we should stop talking about dicks. Yes, maybe. Maybe for 5 seconds, chat. Not everything is a dick joke. I don't think anyone would do anything. Yeah, I honestly, I really think you guys would be fine for the most part. I'd be ashamed of some of the degens in here. Honestly, I would be probably the most ashamed. Because there would be a point where I'd probably end up like getting frustrated and having to go off on somebody, and then I would feel embarrassed. YouTube chat being the good child. YouTube is generally better than Twitch, which is wild because when I first started streaming on YouTube, that was not the case. But that's because I had like super randoms, and some of the randoms were like really rude. And then like I started getting regulars, and like it's just not a thing anymore. Hey JC, how's it going? We're the feet lovers here. I am sure she is aware of the existence of degeneracy, as she is a like nerdy and weeby girl herself. Okay, so there's that. Cad's girlfriend is a trick created by Cad just to make chat behave better. There are times where I wonder if like I'm hallucinating, because I'm like, there's just no way. Not in the sense that like I couldn't get a girlfriend. There's just no way in the sense that like this girl is everything that she is. That's where I'm like, clearly this is some figment of my imagination. . Same wavelength, yeah. And is that the 4-star? That's the 5-star C. Well, that'll work too. I could use that. Technically, it's the silver node, but silver usually has silver and gold. Be careful, Cad. She could be a Fujoshi? I'm familiar with the term, but what's a Fujoshi? Pinch me, I'm dreaming kind of feeling, Cad. Yeah, at least from talking with her, it sounds like we're both of the opinion of like we kind of both required a very unique like blend of person for this to really work out, and we seemingly both appear to be the other's unique blend of person, which is weird. Like, thank you, Chad. I'm glad I got all of you guys to actually out yourselves as knowing what that term means. Ask her about the Neo Armstrong Cyclone Jet Armstrong cannon. I did just get confirmation from her today that she likes Gintama. I don't know how much she's watched of it. But so she is probably based enough to know what that is. Noah Banner has been kind to me for SSR. Spook first multi and all of NC, and next multi ham, multi the 4-star cycle. Or circle. Guess I call her circle. Go for it. Learning a new word. Yeah, that's a word that you want to unlearn, though. If you've read manga and watched anime enough, it will come up at some point. No. No, I reject your reality and I replace it with my own. My friend says he will never have a girlfriend because he likes his girls like he likes his licorice. He doesn't like licorice. He doesn't even like Twizzlers? So, Kat, is it safe to assume that she is a Rin fan, or did you ask how much she enjoyed Saber? I asked her what her favorite character from the series was, and she immediately spat out Saber. So I think I'm good on that. And then she tried to be like, oh, but that may be too much of a, like, plain answer. And so she started listing other characters. And I was like, no, you're good. I think most people learned the word by accident. Oh, I certainly did. That's why I was waiting to see chat explain it to me. Hold on. Just for chat's sake. Damn, I got shot. Yeah, it's... I just got here. What word? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Wait a minute. I was gonna say, what version of the song is this? I was not mentally prepared for this version of the song. uh More to the point that he's gay, so it makes sense why he will never have a girlfriend. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Why do you know that word, Cad? Who said I know that word? Maybe Alba, I just shot it out of instinct. Maybe something told me that word was wrong. Okay, so I did. VIP wanted me to ask her, so I did ask her the Artoria question. She was not aware, and she was just like, well, isn't she Arthur Pendragon? And I was like, yes. So I was like, okay, so she doesn't even know about the whole like naming issue. So I'm like, I'm good. And I just explained it to her. You said it multiple times on New Player Guide yesterday or 2 days ago. Sorry, what? Oh, yeah, the cursed version? Yeah, the only reason I said is to actually explain the issue, right? Why am I getting ads? My subscription hasn't expired yet. There's a lot of times where, like, technically your subscription has ended, but it won't show it until, like, the end of the day. I don't know why. Cad's painting? Yes, Cad is in pain. Actually, my like left shoulder today, particularly like the rotator cuff right in here, has been kind of bothering me today. Because I basically today was like arms day, so I did like free weights. I did bicep curls and triceps, and oh god, that hurt too. So like it just. I don't know. I think like just curling the biceps made my shoulder not do good thing. It's a play on mansplaining. Oh no, I got that crossed, but you left out the L, so instead it just spelled paining. As in like I'm in pain. I didn't know about the cursed word being a fan of the series for so long until I played FGO less than a year ago. Yeah, honestly, FGO is really the only place you'll actually encounter it. It definitely, like, if you were to read the visual novels on Steam now, you would, unless you like made an edit. Feeling sore about the gym is great. It means you put in the work, accept the pain, and be proud of it. Well, yes, but not in the case of my shoulder. So I pitched for years, Chad. I'm a left-handed pitcher. So my left shoulder is just no. It does not feel good sometimes. It is just a nagging like problem that I have had for a long time here. Sorry, Chad, just 1 second. I just slept and my hip hurts. Oh, you're old. Welcome to being old. Chat, as you get older, when you go to sleep, you wake up and you are in pain. Sometimes it's your neck. Sometimes it's your back. Sometimes it's your hip. Sometimes you just hurt all over. Is it in the subs for Crunchyroll or Netflix? What, the curse name? I don't know. Like I said, she watched UBW, and I think for at least the vast majority of UBW, she's just referred to as Saber. I'd have to go back and watch it because it's been like, I think it's been 2 years since my last watching of UBW. So like, I'm a little vague on it. All right, chat. There is Noah. And behold, plenty of rewards. Fuck my sciatica, man. Knocked my end table over and all of my electronic devices fell on the floor. That sounds like dogs. I can't get on my alt account. I use LD Player, and after the maintenance, it won't connect to my Google account. Do you use like an APK? Because you like whenever there is a new event, you do have to do a like APK update. Like major maintenances usually do that. How do you feel about Tsukiri? You should interest on starting Fate Route. What about Suki? In general, I feel like everything has to wait until I'm done with Fate Route. And whenever I get around to Fate Route, I guess is another question entirely. Do I do 50% down Embers? Sorry, I'm just thinking for a second, chat. What, like, my JP account actually needs. All Embers available, so I actually think I go Assassin Embers here. Here, chat, you guys want a demonstration of normal Tiamat comp? How's she coming along bonding wise? God, still 300k. Holy crap. Unless I just hit it. Couldn't move my neck left, up, or down. Yep. No, it seems like a top tier writer. I will talk about him in a bit. It is an interesting set of circumstances. Hip pain's genetic. Ooh, that sucks. Yeah, for the most part, for me, I have like lower back pain, which is funny because my dad has upper back pain. Don't ask me why. 'Cause, 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 ' You need embers for weeklies? I think I already got it done, though. What's up, Tesla? Could you show us on JP how the new button that helps doing craft essence bombs works? Yeah, that's not hard. Assuming I have the C's for it. Bigger you are, the harder it is on back and knees. My knees are actually pretty okay for the most part, but I think that's because I've always had decently strong legs. I'm sure like nowadays it's not nearly as good as it used to be, but it'd be what it be. Just stagger the cards. D-chat, it will still kill. Now, I do want to make this point because I'm going to probably talk about it a little bit later some, but keep in mind that whenever you are doing a Tiamat comp, it is inherently slower than a normal farming comp. What do I mean? Well, a normal Tiamat comp usually is going to require double Tiamat, NPs on turn 1, and then an AoE wave clear on turn 1. That means on turn 1, you have already used 3 NPs, which is the same as if you were just looping, for instance. From there, then, you still have to card waves 2 and 3. Therefore, Tiamat comps are inherently slower than normal farming. But it is what it is. If you want to do it, you can absolutely pull it off. I started getting back pain when I turned 30. I don't get back pain regularly, thank God, but I think a lot of that is because I usually have really good posture, right? But I do get it from time to time. And it'll either be because like I slept on it wrong, or like if I was doing something like strenuous lifting the day before. So like if I was like moving furniture around or something. I will probably get off the Tiamat comp though, because as I did mention, it is kind of slow. Is assassin, so I need a caster. Oh, wait, I was in Embers. I thought I was in Party Select. Okay, hold on. No wonder it was filtered to not level max. I was sitting there, I was like, why is it filtered to this? This is weird. And that's immediately going to cause a problem, I suspect. Oh, it procced. Nope. All right, we still have more. Do I have for mana loading append? I do not. Offer something different than just spamming MPs. Yeah, it is a nice change of pace. Don't get me wrong. I feel like the reason I point that out is because I have had people that have like unironically said this is the new meta and like you're never going to use anything else. So I try to at least like challenge that messaging so that people don't go like, oh yeah, they're saying it must be true. It's like, yeah, like I don't know about that, guys, but like, is it good? Yeah, it's definitely a very consistent crit comp. Will DVR work with Steeg? That's not the right DVR. There we go. That's writers. I am not in the event, so bloop. Okay, there we go. She's interesting, but I think she's kind of hindered by being so dependent on her NP. Having things on an NP is a double-edged sword. So, yes, like in the sense that you have to fire off her NP to get her buffs, that kind of sucks. But the upside is that if you want the buffs again, it is easier to get back to another NP than it is to wait on skill cooldowns. So there is some upside, there is some downside. It really just depends on your scenario and what you're doing. I have seen people try to claim like, oh, I can get off a third Tiamat NP within a 3 turn. Don't do that. Like, unless you're just either trying to use like invuln to protect, or you're just trying to re-up the buffs. Basically, just trying to like get that 3-turn duration back. Because there really is no reason to use the third NP again. You are massively wasting your resources when you do that. Yeah. Going over cap for critical damage, yeah. So it's like there's not really a reason to actually do it. You're better off to like, if you're on turn 3, just wait a turn, then pop it. You'll be fine then. But it is what it is. So like I feel like there's a lot of like mixed messaging on Tiamat. There's a lot of people that like don't actually understand how she works, but that's not surprising because there's a lot of people that don't watch my videos. So it is what it is. I've just kind of come to grips with the fact that it's like, well, if they're not going to watch, they're not going to watch. There's nothing I can do about it. Let's go with that. Gonna have to buff them on the next turn. It's not that crazy good, but not a fix-all scenario. Yeah. Yeah, the thing I've found is that usually when you get outside of the normal 3-turn cadence, Tiamat does have a tendency to kind of fall off. And I think it's because it's not like you're actually losing much in the way of steroids. Like, for instance, Tiamat's first skill is not actually that much steroid. What are you losing? What you're usually losing is the, like, massive star generation that every single unit has in a Tiamat comp. When you don't manufacture stars, it becomes a lot harder to get crits with her, and thus her comp begins to fall off quite a bit more in terms of its damage output. Because Tiamat's entire comp revolves around not only having buff uptime, but also just like having insane crit damage. What happens then when you don't crit? Well, the damage kind of falls off a cliff. It does not do very much. So therein lies the issue of you really need that crit consistency. So I think, like, honest to God, in a like challenge environment or a fight where I was maybe going to go the distance, ironically enough, something like a like fragment of 2030 or something would actually do wonders for her in that comp, because I think you can probably rely on like running around with like maybe 20-ish stars, and fragment of 2030 would at least get you up to that like 30-star break point where things start becoming at least more likely than not to crit. Plus you have things like mighty change that you can do to actually expand the capability. The game really just gave me 78. Okay. Fine, we'll do it again. And I'm gonna pre-card basically just to get the extra NP damage. I need to see if I can make rails this month, man. Do I need them? Yep. I just do it to be insane. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but like, as long as you're aware that like you're hitting the cap and you're just making a conscientious choice to do a third NP, there's nothing technically wrong with it. It's just basically, I think a lot of people think that like, oh yeah, that's like the best move that I can make in that scenario. And it's like, no, it's actually not. And that's where I say like a lot of people I don't think actually properly understand how she works. Because it seems to me like that's the giveaway a little bit there. Okay. This comp actually works. It's a very irregular 3-turn, but this is somehow like sometimes with Sieg, you have to pop his arts up in turn 2 to get him enough refund. He is a weird unit like that. It's one of the reasons I actually wish that they would make his arts up 3 turns. Because honestly, he can kind of use it. Well, I got cream last night. Now I need Siegfried to have the demon sword couples. Yeah. That's actually irregular. Most people usually get Summon via spooks. Did you see Tiamat's second ascension animations? It's so adorable. I did, but third ascension Tiamat. Hmm. Yeah, it's just such an odd like charging routine. Thinking back, this year is big for QOL on JP bond overflow, big increased Q cap, and now helping make craft essence bombs. Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like some of those have been QLs that I've pointed out for years, and I'm really surprised that they have not like it took them this long to do them. I'm happy we have them, but like I don't know if you guys remember, but when they did the bond overflow thing, I kind of criticized them for taking so long to do it. It was obvious that it needed to be done, and it was pretty clear that people didn't want to like the devs didn't want to actually give it to us. Since Art's face card does so little damage, I beg to differ. And quick face card actually does even less. So, but I mean, if you're in a proper Arts comp, your Arts face card is not going to do very little. It'll do quite a bit. And see, that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, I'm not going to say that like people are arguing in bad faith. I don't think that's the case. But I feel like there's maybe a lot of like misconceptions floating around that people don't understand. Man, the new 3-star CE art is good. I have a bone to pick with them. Chat. Let me see if I can find an image of it. Chat. Point of view. You just buffed Medea. You are the worst single target caster in the game currently because of that. You watch them buff Cersei, but they remember to give you a hot CE. Like, what is this shit? Why did Cersei get the buff and not Midrash? I look at this and I go like, you guys are assholes. Don't get me wrong, Cersei could use the buff too, it's fine. But like, holy crap! You literally remembered to give her a CE so you knew she existed, and you just ignored a buff for her? Like, again, I can't emphasize this enough, chat. She is worse than Medea now. That is not good. So, like, I saw the CE and I was like, damn, that looks nice. And I was like, wait a minute. They remembered Midrash. Why didn't they buff her? In all seriousness, Chat, watch. I would not be surprised to see that tandem happen. So that may be why they chose to buff Cersei. And like I said, it's not like Cersei couldn't use the upgrade either. The devs clearly spoil Cersei. Yeah, that is what it is. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not upset that Cersei got an upgrade. I'm more just like, you guys clearly know that Midrash is in the game, and you clearly have acknowledged her existence yet again with a craft essence, and yet you have not done anything for her. Just seeing that stuff just kind of tilts me, because I'm like, you guys are kind of assholes. Gonna get nuked by that Ars Nova again, right? Actually, chat, is Grand Caster the last one? Because I think, isn't it Assassin next? It is? Yeah, that's on purpose. They know what they're doing. Caster last, I wonder why. Yeah. I mean, and we've been over this before. It's like technically Solomon shouldn't be able to be, but like, chat, watch. Will we see Merlin for Grandcaster? I think there's several good guesses for Grandcaster. You could see like Castoria, you could see Merlin, you could see again, like we mentioned before, some sort of like Solomon. It'll Grandcaster will be an interesting one. Unlike Grand Rider, where I think everybody and their brother knew it was going to be Noah. Of course, this would come out on Friday. I mean, they did Musashi. Yep. There's so many possible Grand candidates. Well, I saw somebody being like, oh man, if only we got Grand Genghis Khan as Grand Rider. And I was like, that would actually have been really fucking cool. But they haven't. So, like, I don't know that they're going to. I was actually memeing it between Tai Gong Wang as the Grand Rider. Yeah. Grand Assassin is Tez. So like, according to Babylonia and Camelot, the only person that could fit Grand Assassin was King Hassan. However, obviously shit has evolved since then. So I'm gonna say it could be Hassan again, though he did supposedly vacate his seat. If not, Tez does make a lot of sense, especially as we've already passed the Berserker, so we know he's not going to be that. Tez actually didn't want Grand Assassin. Yeah, and I mean, like, in a similar deal with, like, Grand Archer, like, we know Gilgamesh doesn't want it either, right? So it is what it is. Wait, have we done the Grand Archer one yet, chat? We have, haven't we? No, we didn't? Grand Archer is going to be interesting, then. Archers before Caster? Yeah. My Archer one will be ready. It's MHX for Assassin that I really got to, like, work on prepping. I guess if I really had to, I could, like, blitz Gray up. My JP account has so many embers it doesn't know what to do with them, so that's definitely a possibility. But, like, I don't really know what I'm gonna do about MHX, other than I might have to, like, roll some additional copies. Gil doesn't want Grand Archer, news to me. Yeah. He doesn't want the quote-unquote responsibility of it. Because, like, I believe he would qualify, just based off the sheer number of, like, noble phantasms he basically has stored in the gate, and as well as, like, he has clairvoyance and other things. Like, on paper, Gil is one of the strongest servants ever. In actuality, Gil is somebody that perpetually throws fights due to his ego. So it just is what it is. The Grand Serenity route, alternatively. It'd actually be kind of cool to see another Hassan get Grand. I don't know that they would do that, but I feel like that would at least be really interesting. It'd be funny if it's just Super Orion again and they also buff him. It wouldn't surprise me at this point because I think a lot of your single target archers are low key kind of dead. Grand Arash. Dude, Grand Arash is going to be a terrifying sight. Like, we already have 120 Arashes. That's already a, like, insane thing in and of itself. I can only imagine Grand Arash being even crazier. It's fine, Ash. You didn't have to do that. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. Pretty much. Can Durga be grand? Yes. I was going to say, I don't know that, like, divines can be. They're not supposed to be able to, but then I just immediately thought of our Grand Lancer and went, like, yeah, no, never mind. That's a thing. It can happen. Because Indra basically did it himself. There we go. Just commit some of these embers. Hey, great suck. Let's go. Wife handed out all the good suck. $101. Perfect. She is one level higher. Increased stats. Yeah, Archer Ishtar is actually a pretty intriguing possibility as well. Plus, like, with that recent buff that they gave her, oh my god, chat. Oh my god. I haven't really used Ishtar since the buff. I need to, I think I need to, like, actually sit down and do some of the strengthenings on my JP account. Because they haven't, like, I've done all the, like, Saberface ones, but I need to actually, like, do some of the others, right? Because honest to God, I think even with just, like, my NP1 Ishtar, she is probably a much, 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 much better unit now because of that change. Are you going to switch your Grand on JP from Lartoria to Lalter on JP? No, probably not. Lartoria, honestly, like, bias aside, Lartoria is just kind of the more usable unit. That's why, like, again, I've said for a long time that, like, people trying to say that she was somehow the, like, worst SSR in the game at the time, I was like, no, that's, like, completely could not be further from the truth. Because Lartoria has always had a very, like, simple and usable kit. Her biggest issue has been damage output, and that had been a long time coming, and now she is literally our best AoE Lancer because of that. So, but it is what it is. I think, like, Lalter's still really nice, but Lalter is in this weird area of, like, hey, I only have 20% charge. Hey, I can pop off with crits if the stars align. So I do feel like, in a weird way, Lalter could use maybe some quality of life. I don't know that she necessarily needs more damage directly. I've seen people asking for that, and I'm like, Lalter is still at the top of the 4-star AoEs. I don't know that damage is what she needs. She just needs more, like, kind of quality of life for the kit to be a little bit better. Now, if they turned Lalter into like a 50% charger, that'd kind of be insane. But I don't expect them to do something like that. A Grand Rash with multiple guts and auto ends the fight if he uses his MP. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do something like that, but it would actually be cool if you have to face a Grand Rash. That would be a very interesting battle. At least I personally feel. Yoink. So we are already getting the writer tickets, so you guys can exchange them for, you know, statues and stuff. That's what I've been doing, is still just going after the silver statues. Ironically enough, I have been going for meteor horseshoes, or wait, what's the full name of horseshoes, chat? Meteoric horseshoes. Okay, I wasn't insane. I was like, wait, why did I call it like meteor horseshoes? Think about Lalter's charge from 20 to 30% and make her 3 turns with double Koyan. Yeah, like even a change like that would just be really nice for her. I don't know that they have to do it, but it would definitely be a nice change pace. Can't Super Orion be a grand? His NP doesn't do damage, but still. Yes, he like Super Orion in general could be. Okay, chat. Let's talk stuff. Because we got lots of stuff. So like I said, I got the Vanished Beginning event. This is basically a Tunguska event. It is there's literally no nodes to do. Okay. We just have story, like 5 AP story, and that unlocks like every day. The raid, I believe it's the only one, but the only raid I believe will be coming out Sunday. And I assume that'll last like 24 hours because the next day we have Grand Rider. So I think like, well, Grand Rider Duel. I think like this event is just basically going to be a pseudo event, and it's going to be more that like we are actually having the Grand Rider Duel with story associated with it. So kind of how they did the Lotto to set up the Indra Duel. I think they're just going to be like tacking on a little bit more story here for Noah. And that's really all it is. We got triple Nemo riders. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier, and I said like it's kind of like disappointing now that they did Santa Nemo because of this, because I feel like it takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails, pun intended, of Captain Nemo here as Noah. I feel like having 2 AoE arts like Nemo's is just weird, and then you still have a third single target Nemo, and they're all in the same class, and it's like this is just highly redundant. Even the BBs have more variety in the sense that like one of the BBs is AoE and Buster and can card lock. The other BB is AoE and can change in P types between AoE arts damage or AoE art, or sorry, like support arts in P. And then the third one is just a single target arts and P. So like there's still at least more variety there as to like what the units are and what they can do. versus like, to me, Nemo basically just is a damage dealing writer with some supportive characteristics. And that just is what it is. But yeah, again, there is just basically nothing. This is why fandom doesn't have anything. There's not really anything to do other than I guess they could put the main quests in here. But it is what it is. We got a Noah and Cersei banner. And we have CEs just like Tunguska. What do I mean? These are damage bonus CEs as gotcha CEs. That is very rare. That has only really happened in the modern era of FGO with Tunguska. No other event has had that happen since, like, I want to say like year 1 or year 2 of the game. So it is not, to me, a good thing. I don't like that they do this, but it is what it is. You certainly will not have to actually use them to achieve the proper damage bonus. Usually for things like that, you're going to be looking instead at like Black Grail if you just need damage output and stuff, but maybe not everybody has Black Grail, so this is kind of a alternative to that. That being said, the actual primary reason then to probably roll them would be the additional bond bonus. However, at least in Tunguska's case, I believe it only corresponded to the rarity of the units that it was used on, but maybe I'm misremembering or I'm thinking of a different event. So in this one, I don't know if it's locked in any way, but doesn't look too bad. None of the Cs are actually very noteworthy. Like, this could have potentially been a very solid CE. Unfortunately, we kind of already have other Cs that boost divine damage, so it's not really that big of a deal anyways. But yeah, that is basically the event in a nutshell. And like I said, it's we have the raid coming in Sunday, and we will be leading into the event proper on what's the word I'm looking for? Like Monday, I guess, because what it seems to be is that the event is going to be the actual Grand Rider duel, which is just, to me, it's kind of boring, but like, I'm sure if you're able to read the story, it's not. You can at least get the 3-star C from FP. You could, just to kind of point that out and talk about that a little bit here. So keep in mind too, the 3-star CE, like, yes, the bond bonus might be nice, but the damage bonus, it's not even worth it. You have plenty of better CEs than the 3-star. Heck, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to say you probably have plenty of better CEs than the 4-star. Though admittedly, what they put on the 4-star is at least pretty decent in combination with the 50% power mod. So it's not a terrible C. This would be at least competitive with some of your better Cs. And then the 80% damage bonus, this will be better than most other CEs that you guys have. The exception probably obviously being things like Black Grail that are just all attack scaling and just have massive damage bonuses and can really kind of amplify damage to an extent that you can't really compete with. Plus, it is a raid. If we are going to be using someone like, say, Oberon, that means Black Grail is going to be doubling the amount that it's getting. So, like, yeah, I can't say that this is the best CE in that regard. But it is what it is. It'd still be a really decent option if you didn't have a, like MLB level 100 Black Grail lying around. I think sometimes a little boring is fine. Kind of. I don't mind like FGO having like breaks and stuff from the game, but I feel like its content needs to always be kind of on point. It's a 10-year-old game. It should, one, know better, and two, like, literally be trying its damnedest. Hold on, chat. Okay. Doing it like this for such an important character is odd. What do you mean? I also feel like events like Tunguska are way more fun when you can read the story. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like, to us, being unable to read the story, it feels like it's a very flat, like nothing-esque event, right? I will say, like, and I'll show you guys right here, right? But like, for instance, if we go in that regard, this is just wholly worse than Tunguska. Tunguska at least had a map. We are just inside the arc. So, like, in that regard, this is definitely a really toned down event. But like Trub said, and I agree with him on this. So Trub said they are probably kind of like resource-wise phoning this one in, because it is likely that they're focusing a little bit more on like Halloween and probably trying to turn that into like some sort of foreigner singularity. Okay. And we know this because they've already hinted as much, saying that the foreigner story in the anniversary interview, like, it hasn't been told yet. They're aware of it, and they are making something happen on that front. So, and they said we would all know when it happens. So I suspect that's maybe their focus forward. And also coming from Annie 10, where they kind of probably blew their wad a little bit developmentally, I suspect that's why this event is maybe a little bit more bare bones, stuck in between these two. So it's kind of a crossroads as we head towards something that they're spending more development time on, and probably like, something that they did spend a lot of development time on. You think we might get Foreigner Elizabeth? That'd be a really interesting idea. I don't hate that idea. Liz does seem like foreigner material to me, but... Okay, let's talk about strengthenings, and let's talk about Nemo now. Sorry, Noah. Chat, forgive me. I am going to keep doing this the entire night. Like, I am going to be back and forth, like, calling him Nemo or calling him Noah. And you can't blame me, because it's such a similar name. They are both four-letter, names that begin with end. Nemoa, yeah. He is still Nemo? Well, we're trying to find him, then. Hey there, Masters. It's time for... No. If I were to actually introduce myself that way, I would not blame anyone for not watching. But I say that, it's like that might like actually get more people to watch. I don't know, right? At least he tried. That's true. He did. Time to ban OKS? No. He is just trying. Missed out on the skippity. Okay. Let's get to Cersei. Cersei got an upgrade to her third skill. There's Nemo Noah and normal Nemo. God, like, just thinking about like explaining this to someone that's like new to FGO, How the hell do you explain that there are 3 Nemos and they are all writers? It's the same problem as like the Saber Faces, where it's like, what do you mean that's not Red Artoria? And you're like, yeah, that's called Nero. And then you have to like sit there and actually like explain to them why this is a thing. Okay, which one was it for Nemo? Oh wait, yeah, Nemo was the actual in no. Wait. Was it Voyager? I thought. Am I insane, or did Nemo have? Is this Nemo's first buff? I thought Nemo had another buff before this. First buff. Interesting. Okay. I'm insane. I don't know what I'm thinking of then. This is interesting that this is another Voyager of the Storm buff, though. Hmm. I'll probably do both at the same time. Let me grab the numbers here. I'll actually close Noah just so I don't get confused as to which tab I'm on. You gave me more than I asked. Yeah, that's about what I thought. Okay. Wait, oh no, it didn't. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Maybe the buff drowned in the flood? Maybe. No black background? Yeah, I got it. Ah. 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 Let's sit up and make sure we get this one right. Hey guys, Kadroth here. So JP just got the new Noah event, and in the process, we also got some new upgrades. We're going to be talking about the upgrade that both Cersei and Nemo got here in a minute, but just as a favor to me, if you guys enjoy these analysis videos, make sure you like and subscribe. That way you guys get notified the second a new video comes out. I produce these on a weekly basis at this point, so feel free to check it out. We try to post almost every single day new content for you guys, so I would definitely appreciate it. And again, it does help us. So, all right, starting off right off the rip here, we have the Cersei buff. Cersei is definitely an interesting unit. She has long since been a very solid 4-star single target caster. She's buster based, and she has the ability to pigify. The devs have come in and they've actually upgraded her third skill. Part of the reason for this is because not only does she tie in with the event, but she also is kind of feeling a little bit of pressure on the backside. That is to say, the recent buff to Medea has actually kind of put some of the 4-star single target casters in a bad spot. I was actually just ranting about this before recording this video, as they did remember that Sheba also existed, as they gave her a craft essence for the event. So we'll have to see, maybe she'll get an upgrade when the Grand Caster duel rolls around in a couple of months. But at least as of right now, Midrash is just kind of in a bad spot and is pretty much just trounced by Medea. Cersei, however, still kind of held her own. She was still at least kind of slightly edging out Medea in terms of damage, but still had some of the utility to make her worthwhile. That being said, Medea is an arts unit, so she could kind of just sit there doing it over and over again, and that definitely didn't help Cersei. So the devs basically came in and they took her advice for sailing, basically kind of her more like pedestrian skill here, that just had critical star regeneration and the ability to remove the party's debuffs, and they upgrade it, now giving steroids to the entire party. So this not only is going to help out Cersei's damage output, this is also going to help her in a composition with other units. This is a really, really nice upgrade for her. She is basically going to get 15% arts and buster up for the entire party for 3 turns, and increase the party's NP damage for 3 turns by an additional 15% on top of the already existing aspects to this skill that she had. So this is a really, really nice one, as I mentioned before. Basically, on the screen now, you guys can see Cersei's self-damage numbers here. This is just her in a neutral environment under her own power with no sort of external buffs like from a support or a mystic code or anything like that. So with regards to that, you can see it is just a fairly sizable bump up. Actually, ironically enough, this upgrade is better than just straight up giving her an NP interlude in that regard, as NP2 is not as much as the new NP1 is. So that is kind of what we normally look for, as when you get an NP interlude, it usually means NP2 becomes the new NP1. So because that 36k number is not as strong as the new 38k number that she has, it means that for her, this is actually a little bit better than a standard NP interlude would be. So that is definitely nice. It's definitely going to help out Cersei's damage capacity. And on screen now, you guys can see the actual numbers for both old Cersei and new Cersei in terms of an optimal 3-turn setup. Now, obviously, it's a single target caster, and she is buster, so trying to 3-turn with her, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but it's not a very common thing. But just for comparative sake and kind of showing damage output capability, you guys can see basically her old NP1 Wave 3 number would have ended up being about 440k. This is with all the buffs rolling in, and her just kind of utilizing a double Oberon scenario in order to make this work. Now, however, since we have something like a pen number 5 to help her out, we can actually operate in a double Koyanskaya setup, making things a little bit more fluid and normal for her. And we also have the Black Grail and Oberon still to boot. So now we can hit about 493k for her. This is definitely a much better environment on top of having doubled up manpower mods being potentially there. So a much, much more improved number for Cersei. Comparing basically single target one-shot damage, if you will. So this would be like kind of like in a raid environment or some other scenario in which you just need the one term of damage output. How much can you amplify? How much can you get out of it? Basically, the two comps stay the exact same in this scenario, but you can see just the sheer damage increase numbers, as it was almost as much as the 50% power mod that Koyanskaya was providing in the old numbers is now about as strong as no power modifier added at NP1 with the new numbers. So definitely a lot better. These are still neutral, by the way, but they do include, obviously, the support buffs and everything like that. So that means if you're up against an effective target, you're going to be able to basically double these numbers. So it is a really, really interesting thing to see just how strong of a buff this is, even though maybe on paper it doesn't look like it's a huge deal. Now, comparing to someone like Ilya, you can actually see basically Cersei's, 3-turn environment numbers are actually quite a bit better. In terms of one-shot numbers, though, we are looking at Ilya still kind of having the edge. But that's kind of to be expected. It is a 5-star, and there is, again, kind of going to be a little bit of favoritism on that end in terms of the scaling. Still, it is at least nice to see that Cersei, even at NP1, is still fairly competitive, and certainly if you have multiple MP levels, you can make Cersei deal a whole lot more. Sanzang, absolutely going to trounce her on one-shot damage there, but numbers are at least a little bit worse in a 3-turn setup in that sort of scenario if you would actually use them for that. So that is at least an interesting thing to denote, that Sanzang basically still is kind of cursed to use a double Oberon sort of setup for a 3-turn to work properly. Okuni is another interesting one, as she will also do a lot more in terms of one-shot damage numbers, but her 3-turn numbers are at least a little bit more concerning as well, though Okuni does at least have the anti-demonic niche to kind of help her out in that end. So there could be environments where she will just kind of excel and be a better option regardless. So I think Okuni's still in a pretty good spot. And then Summer Charlotte is, interestingly enough, extremely poor and wholly worse than Cersei if she does not have her super effective modifier for skill ceiling being active. If she does, however, she basically just wins against Cersei, making her a little bit more of a more fluid option potentially, and somebody that at least can just really pump the damage numbers. So the issue then would be the utility that Cersei brings potentially being better as a comparison against Summer Charlotte. But I do think, again, this is a really good buff for Cersei. I think it really makes her a lot more viable as a single target option for you guys, as not that she was in a bad spot before, but at least due to the Medea buff, you were seeing a little bit of issue of like, well, why do I use the 4 stars when there's a 3-star that is doing good numbers now? So again, this does really help her out, and I think it's a good spot for her to be in. Next up, Nemo actually got his first upgrade, and that might sound kind of absurd because, as you guys know, we just got Noah into the game. I'll be covering him in another video, but Nemo has always been a little bit of a weird one. He is a single target permanent rider that is arts, and that has made a lot of people either ignore him or at least choose to say, hey, if he spooks me, I'll take him, but I'm not going to necessarily try. Still, there are plenty of people that really like Nemo and have rolled him, but he hasn't really gotten a whole lot of love over time, and they probably needed to, because let's be honest, for a long period in time, Ozzy has just kind of been dominating the single target writers, and it's mostly just due to the fact that Ozzy has gotten by far the most love, short of someone like, say, Ushi Wakamaru. So it is a really weird thing to see that, like, the writers, especially the single target ones, are relatively untouched, and that's something that I hope the devs are maybe now noticing and going to do something about. But in this case, they actually did do something with OG Nemo here, as they come in and they buff his Voyager of the Storm skill. We have seen a little bit of adjustments to Voyager of the Storm skills over time. I'm not going to say it's a super common thing, but it is nice to see them tweaking some of these, because while Voyager of the Storm can be a strong ability in the right circumstances, it definitely struggles with its single turn duration in most cases. Now, Nemo had his own unique variant on this that basically applied to waterside and void space battlefields, but I feel like the devs kind of looked at this and said, you know what, this is lackluster, let's give him a little bit more staying power. So now they have changed his party-wide NP damage basically to be 3 turns, same thing with his party-wide attack. And as you guys can see, if we look back here, they've also rounded out the numbers. So instead of it being 12% at max for both the NP damage and the attack up, it is now a solid 15%. So you basically end up getting a little bit more modifiers out of this, about 6% more in terms of that. And that will impact damage. It's not going to be a huge buff, but it will at least be something. On top of this, they also added a new utility to make Nemo a little bit more useful and stand out from the pack, where now he also increases the party's buff removal resistance for 1 time over 3 turns. I actually really like this change, as this is another unit like, again, Benny Enma that can provide buff removal resistance, but is also single target, which is good for boss killing scenarios, which, let's be honest, is the majority of scenarios that you're going to encounter buff removal in. So I've always found it weird when they slap buff removal resistance on a lot of AoE units, because single targets seem to be the better option in most of those cases. But it just remains to be seen as to what battle you are facing and what circumstances you're up against. Still, I really like this. It is a 100% buff removal resist, and it is party-wide, so that has a whole lot of utility, and that will see Nemo getting a little bit more use over time. How is that going to translate into numbers? Let's take a look. Now on screen, you guys can see Nemo's raw self-damage only numbers here. This does not include any sort of buffs from anything external, including Mystic Codes, support units, or anything else. Just Nemo with his own buffs under his own power. So you guys can see on the left side, basically, we have the normal numbers for Nemo. He certainly is not somebody that's like dealing, crap amounts of damage, but he does at least have a little bit of a, I'm going to say, pedestrian number to it. Nemo has always been single target arts. That's always been a feather in his cap, because it allows him to just kind of sit there and keep doing it over and over again. The upside, though, to these pedestrian numbers is going to be that they have at least given you 2 very, I'm going to say, usable niches, both as Supergiant and Waterside Battlefield can be fairly common things, depending on what you are fighting. Plus, the ability to combine both means that Nemo's damage can scale actually pretty absurdly in the right circumstances. So in that regard, buffing his damage, I can see why the devs maybe said, hey, let's give him a little bit of buff and see where things go from there. It also may be the case that they may be thinking that somewhere down the line they might give him an NP interlude, or they might end up buffing another one of his skills, maybe with a higher steroid to it. So I can see why they maybe didn't want to go all out with something like Voyager of the Storm. Plus, the fact that it's 3-turn duration now just really helps out for his sustainability in terms of damage output, and making him less of a 1-turn, 1-trick pony here. So in that regard, don't expect a huge fluctuation. You can see the damage variance is quite minimal, but I do think in terms of usability, this buff is actually really good. So on screen, you guys can see old Nemo's 3-turn numbers and one-shot numbers. And now here is Nemo's new numbers. So basically he goes from 321 on wave 3 in a proper comp to about 333k now instead. So a little bit of like, I'm going to say like about a 12k damage gain there in a proper composition. For single target numbers, you're looking at 469, nice, going all the way up to 484. So you do get at least a little bit of a jump there, and then obviously even more when it comes to things like his power mods. So I do think, again, Nemo is an intriguing case. Let's take a look at how he stands currently amongst all the writers. So we have Sakamoto Ryoma writer, who is a single target welfare. Obviously, in terms of something like that, he, ironically enough, ends up beating Nemo out of niche. In niche, Nemo just wins outright. For single target damage, though, Ryoma actually, again, pretty much a whole head above him in terms of strength, unless that niche is in play. Then you're going to see a little bit better effectiveness for Nemo. Summer Murasaki is another interesting one. She's also a single target arts looper. Not very much in the way of charge, but once you get her looping, she just kind of keeps going. And this is reflected in her damage output. As you guys can see, she is a lot better of an option in terms of just raw damage, and she does have the super effective earth modifier. This means that she can stand decently toe-to-toe with Nemo even after his buff, but it really just depends. She's a limited summer unit. Maybe not everybody has access to her, has her at higher NP levels, so it is what it is. But I do think she's a decent option, albeit somebody that doesn't necessarily have the same charge that Nemo does. Kentucky Rider, also a welfare from the Evocation Festival. You guys can get him now. He's absolutely fantastic. He is single target quick. So assuming you have the proper quick supports for him, he is going to pop off. And this is reflected again in damage numbers. He doesn't have any sort of niche, but in terms of just raw output, well, Kentucky's always kind of been a pretty insane one. And then we have Cinderelli, who is also another welfare that will pretty much just stand toe-to-toe with Nemo, particularly if her Wild Beast niche is in play. From there, we also have Ketz. Ketz, in my opinion, is in dire need of an upgrade. They did give her one buff back in the day that helped her out, but she was kind of neck and neck with Ozzy. They both got an initial buff, and they were both still neck and neck. And then Ozzy got that super nice NP interlude that Ketz just never got. So to me, Ketz could absolutely use an NP interlude. She feels like an almost forgotten unit at this point, and I would really like to see the devs give her some kind of love. And then here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Ozzy, just kind of rolling in here like a freight train with 670k damage on wave 3 and 687k on terms of one-shot damage. So not a huge improvement there, but that just kind of is a testament to Ozzy's just raw firepower in terms of what he can accomplish. He doesn't really have any niches, so to speak, but we all know Ozzy has a ton of utility packed into his kit, so utilizing him in a 3-turn comp, you know, as a single target, probably not going to happen too often, but obviously there are multiple damage dealer setups and things where you can use him alongside somebody else that's maybe going to take out a wave for him. Ozzy's going to be kind of the better option for things like that and really help things out, but Nemo does kind of stand apart a little bit now due to this upgrade giving the party 3-turn duration buffs. This is going to help out his usability. This will improve the scenarios that you can actually kind of take him in and make him a better performer in scenarios that you would already take him in. In that regard, I think it's a good buff for Nemo. I would have maybe liked to see a little bit more damage, but like I said, that may be coming somewhere down the line in the future. Though, admittedly, it is year 10 of the game, so who knows when a buff like that will happen. Let me know what you guys think about the Cersei and Nemo buffs, and do you think that they maybe should have gone a little bit further, or would you have maybe preferred to see a different unit get buffed? I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts, and I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you all for watching. Have a good one. Okay. Surprisingly, Nemo has put a lot of work in for me. The devs love to put one big super large enemy in 90 plus plus nodes. Yeah, I think super large is a very like underrated thing. I think it is very sneakily common, and a lot of people don't realize it. Like there are so many enemies that qualify as super large, including like large boars, hydras, the stupid flying snake thing from Lost Belt 4, like all sorts of like tchotchke enemies that aren't servants. Usually if it's not a servant and it's a boss enemy, it's probably super large. And that's why I keep like laughing at it. Dragons, yep. Hey, Aurelus, thank you for the 60 months. Chat, can we get some love for 5 years from Aurelus? Appreciate it, my man. And thank you. Glad to be of service. I guess a Shikibu Nemo team would be decent. If you're just trying to like rattle off a bunch of like single targets, yeah. I think it'd also be really interesting to see like Nemo paired with Nemo for circumstances like this. That is certainly an option. Okay, let's close all of that down and let's go pick up our Noah. Chat, is he Noah or is he no? Ah. I hear Bill Cosby's voice for some reason. He had a pretty famous Noah skit. He's Rolla for me. I see. Okay. Let me get his numbers and stuff open. Don't be a cad, invest in a Roth. Damn. Really gonna do me like that. Oh no, okay. Wait, whoops. Started going too far. I feel bad I'm not hype about this new Grand Servant. No, don't be. I was just talking about that earlier that like so far from what I have seen, at least on the English speaking side, receptions to this event and this choice are just somewhat mixed. There's some people that are like, "Oh, he's finally here from arcade. Thank God." And then there's a bunch of people I also feel like that are like, "Eh." And like it's like, well, everything's as expected, right? I was yeah. Letting go, and I don't wanna know. Don't speak. I know just what you're thinking. Oh, wrong part. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts. Brightening. You and I. Sorry, chat. I asked Avalon a question earlier, so I'm just looking for the answer for it. Wait. Okay. Okay, no, never mind. I see what you're saying. Okay. Sorry, I asked him specifically about like all of this. Wait, what? Oh, this is a new thing. I haven't seen fandom do it like this before. Yep. Yeah, I suppose I should open each of these up. This would be helpful to know. So there's some synergy right there. Synergy there. Synergy there. 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 There's obviously like some of the ones like Bargu and stuff again. I'm just looking for new ones. Jiggy and Crane. Crane's a bit difficult to say like, hey, there's actual synergy here with a like with Nemo and stuff, but because I'm not looking just at the pairing, right? Okay. Chat, let's talk Nemoa. AK, they give it the 48. That is 4 years. Holy cow. Yeah, can we get some love for AK? Obvious one of Summer Tiamat. So I'll have words about that because I've already seen some people saying some really dumb stuff, and that's why we had like the Tiamat discussion earlier today. But yeah, I'll talk about it. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I got these in order. I usually like to invert these. Avalon sends them in this order, but I usually like to do refund into charge scenarios into damage. Okay. Hey guys, Kadroth here. Today we're going to be talking about our newest writer, our grand writer, Nemo / Noah. So Nemo and Noah basically have a lot of synergy. Noah has been somebody that we pretty much knew about from the arcade side of things. He was somebody that we expected to come over for a while now. But the devs have actually kind of kicked him down the road and made it not be a thing until now. And it makes sense that he's coming now due to the Grand Rider Duel seemingly being a part of this event. Now, before we get into Noah's kit, I just want to again remind you guys to make sure if you enjoy the commentary, the analysis, that you guys like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Helps us out a ton. So again, if you want to know when the next video goes live or the next analysis is going to be a thing, feel free to subscribe. It really helps the channel out. All right. So moving on into Noah's kit, he is a limited unit, and forgive me if I keep calling him Nemo throughout the course of this, it's just going to be a thing, but Noah is interesting in the sense that it is another version of Nemo, and all three versions of Nemo are writers, and arts writers at that. In fact, he is the second AoE version of Nemo, as we do have Nemo Santa as a welfare coming up this year on NA. From the Christmas event. So it is an intriguing thing that they have done here with Nemo, as they have kind of made him a little bit of a one trick in that regard, as he is just all writers. And he is actually the third unit in the game to have basically 3 units of the same class, of the same character, which is Artoria, obviously, and BB being the other 2. So this is a little bit redundant for them, I guess you could say, but Noah is a very interesting character, obviously both on paper and I'm sure with how FGO is going to be handling him. Looking at Noah's actual stats here and his performance, though, is going to dictate a lot of things, and I'm gonna have a lot to say about him, so let's kind of dive right in and let's start looking at Noah's actual stats here. So to begin right off the bat, Noah has about 11.6k. This is not a bad number. It is not a like stellar number either. We, usually good attack numbers for a 5-star, you're looking in like the 12k range or higher. Similarly, if he were down in the like 10k range, we'd maybe have some concerns. So he's just kind of right smack in the middle. HP value, though, is actually maybe the concern. It is noticeably anemic. It is not very strong at all for a 5-star. It is one of the weaker HP stats I have seen a 5-star have in a hot second. So in that regard, that is maybe going to be a concern, but we'll talk about his kit and why I don't think it will be in the end. He is star attribute. He has star absorption of 205, which average star absorption for writers is 200, so he's even over the top of that as an arts writer. It's definitely to his benefit, as arts units love to soak stars if they possibly can, as they're usually not our best star generators. And in that regard, you can actually see he's a little bit under the 9% average that you would normally have. His NP charge attack rate is only 0.38. This is actually fairly low, but he makes up for this by having a triple arts deck that we'll get to in a minute. His NP charge defense is the standard 3%. His death rate is a little bit higher than average at 40%, so be careful using him against enemies that can death proc. His alignment is lawful good, his gender is male, and he has a laundry list of traits, so let's get into them. He is a beautiful boy. He is divine, a hominid servant, a humanoid, a loved one, riding, a normal servant, a 7-night servant, and weak to anima elish as his basic traits. In stage 1 and 2, he is Argo related, a divine spirit, and a Greek mythology male. In stage 3, he trades those out for being immune to pigify and being a levitating servant. Now, moving on to the deck, you guys can see he's got the triple arts deck. This is certainly interesting as he only has the single buster and quick card. This is not your standard writer deck by any means, but it will suit him well, as obviously you'll be stuffing him full of arts buffs. So having 3 cards that work for that capacity and will be able to generate a ton of Noble Phantasm is going to work for him. And you can see maybe why they kept the NP charge attack rate so low, as all of his hit counts are above average, the only exception being the extra attack being right smack on average. Otherwise, everything else is at least 1 hit over average, if not 2. So in that regard, he has definitely interesting hit counts, and it should work to his advantage. Take a look at his active skills here. He has a unique spin on Voyager of the Storm instead of having Voyager of Salvation. So this is going to increase the party's NP damage for 3 turns and their attack for 3 turns by a standard 20% each. It will also overcharge the party's NP stage by 1 for 1 time for 3 turns. And then it will increase the attack of animal allies except himself for 3 turns. That is to say, animal, and you're going to see this across his skills, usually incorporates the 3 traits of Wild Beast, Demonic Beast Servant, and Animal Characteristic Servant. This will be important. We'll get into it a little bit more in a minute. But basically, to understand, this just means that if any of those types of units that have that trait are on the field with him when he pops this skill, they will further get an additional 20% attack up, assuming you have maxed out the skill. From here, we'll also remove any debuffs from animal allies except himself and recover the HP of animal allies except himself every turn for 3 turns. This is a really, really interesting and potentially strong capability. This makes Nemo a pseudo support already just with 1 skill. It is not insanely strong, but it is a very nice thing, particularly if you are utilizing him in some sort of multiple damage dealer setup, or you have a support alongside him that is considered a wild beast, demonic beast servant, or animal characteristic servant. So he can definitely use that to his effectiveness and his advantage, and he can absolutely make sure that the party is well taken care of. His second skill increases his own debuff resistance for 3 turns by up to 100%. So it's going to be very difficult to actually land a debuff on him while the skill is active. It is also just a immediate heal of up to 2k, and then will recover his own HP every turn for 3 turns further by an additional 1k. So in that regard, he's not going to heal maybe as much as his animal allies, but this is just another nice thing for kind of keeping him going, especially considering he doesn't have a whole lot of HP to begin with. From here, he's also going to charge his own NP gauge by up to 50%, so this is definitely going to be a skill you're going to want to lore anyways. So the added benefit will be that you will also max out his healing potential in doing that. From here, he can further charge the party's NP gauge, except himself, by an additional 20% at max. On top of that, if you are an animal ally, he will charge you by an additional 10% on top of that. So if you utilize him alongside animal allies, he is going to be a 30% party charger. If you utilize him just on his own, or again, maybe without an animal ally, he's only going to be a 20% party charger. But still, it is an interesting thing that they have included this. And again, both of these first 2 skills on a 6-turn cooldown. In fact, all 3 of his skills are on a 6-turn cooldown. His third skill is where things get a little bit weird. He's going to increase his own arts performance for 3 turns by up to 30%. Just a nice self-steroid, multiple turn duration, pretty much what we can expect. He will also give himself a buff on attack for 3 turns that gains critical stars whenever he attacks using an arts card. Well, there you go. It doesn't specify normal attacking, so this also includes his Noble Phantasm. So basically, Nemo has up to 4 cards that can trigger this effect. Definitely an interesting thing. However, the amount of stars that you get off this is not that strong. It's only 6. But it is at least an interesting thing, and it does make him a little bit of a star generator, kind of further eroding star generation as an actual like utility or primary gimmick of the quick comps. So it is another interesting thing to see them doing this. Furthermore, as we mentioned, his anemic health and his healing capability somewhat helps that. He's also going to grant himself invincibility for 2 attacks, 3 turns. This is where he'll have a little bit of hard survival baked in now, and his health is becoming less and less of an issue the more we see this. From here, he will also grant himself an additional arts up to 20%, while an animal unit is alive on the field for 3 turns. What does that mean? That means anybody, again, with the wild beast, demonic beast servant, or animal characteristic servant traits on both your team or the enemy team can cause this to trigger. So if he's just fighting against animals, he can also get that arts up. He will also increase his own critical damage, basically, by 50% plus the number of animals times 25% for 3 turns. So this is another interesting thing in that regard, that he's going to get potentially even more crit damage depending on how many animals are actually in the field. Just to kind of read the notes here on this, you can see it says the number of animal units contains both allies and enemies, and Fandom actually has a little bit of a pop-up here that also includes the fact that basically this arts up effect is applied when you use the skill immediately, and it will just become active or inactive depending on whether or not there are animals on the field at the time. So in that regard, you don't have to worry about like trying to snapshot the skill and getting it only when like there is an animal active. No, instead you can just kind of pop it and it'll become active the second there is one. So that is actually a nice thing in that regard. But just keep in mind, he is somebody that you're really going to want to take animals alongside, true to Noah's legend. Taking a look at his passive skills here, he has Riding A for some additional quick performance for his singular quick card, Magic Resistance B for even more debuff resistance, Independent Action EX for an enhanced critical damage by up to 12%. That's definitely a nice one. Divinity B just for some flat additional damage added, rounding out his passive skills there. So again, not too bad. Taking a look at his append skills, something like mana loading makes a whole lot of sense for him. He is an arts unit. He's definitely going to be somebody that you're going to be wanting to loop with probably. So this is going to be one of those things where, yes, mana loading is a very easy recommendation. Obviously, things like the special attack finesse can be good, and the skill reloading can be good if you're trying to get back to his skills. But the alter ego attack damage aptitude is arguably one of the worst things you could do. Don't invest in this one. This is the easy skip, as you really are not going to be wanting to take a rider against an alter ego if you can help it. And his first skill with the extra attack finesse improvement is certainly just always an option. It is definitely one that you can choose. It's not a bad one by any stretch of the imagination, but it is what it is. Looking at his Noble Phantasm, it is, of course, Noah's Ark. This is going to be a 5-hit AoE Arts NP. It's going to provide him 2 different power mods that can stack with each other, basically to increase his own damage against giant enemies for 1 turn, activating before damage, and super large enemies for 1 turn, activating before damage. He will then deal damage to all enemies, and will charge the party's NP gauge by 10% flat. If he is being alongside animal allies, he will also charge them by an additional 10%, making him a pseudo Da Vinci rider at that point, or almost similar to Voyager in that regard. So there is at least some interesting things in this NP, and you can see furthermore why he just wants to be surrounded by animals the entire stretch of the way. His overcharge effect is actually really nice. It is a scaling NP damage up that lasts for 3 turns and activates first. So the more overcharge you give him, the better off he's going to be. And because he has overcharge at least of 1 rank baked into his kit, you can assume he will at least get 1 15% NP damage up, as well as potentially 2 more 10% NP damage ups if you are at least kind of looping with him at that point. So this is a really, really nice thing, and definitely something to look forward to, as this can help scale his damage up. It unfortunately does not scale crazily well, but I mean, I think that's to be expected when you have a 3-turn, again, overcharge effect. So it's really, really nice for him in that regard. Now, the next question is going to be, how does Nemo actually perform? Like, what are we going to be looking at in terms of refund numbers? But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of point out to you these kind of categories that work with Nemo. So we have the wild beast servants. Of them in particular, not a whole lot going on here. You definitely have like Dobrynia that can be an option for you, but realistically, this is the smallest pool of applicable units. You can certainly use him alongside non-arts units, but he's probably going to function best and most synergistically with units that are focusable on arts. He also has the demonic beast servant allies, and there are several here, including Summer Barg has Tiamat, again, Dobrynia, Summer. Tamamo is another interesting combination with him, as she can kind of get the buffs from him while also supporting him. You also have units like Ibuki Summer and basically Summer Melu, as well as Summer Kiara, that kind of just work as well. And then the last one, kind of the biggest pool here, is going to be the animal characteristic servants. Units like Shiki, Beni Enma, basically like even potentially Miss Crane, as we mentioned earlier. And, even more like Draco and stuff like that can also function really well. You also have our Moon Rabbit, Miss Summer Shiki down here. So there are some really nice potential like synergies alongside someone like Noah. Now, I have seen a lot of people say like Tiamat works, and she is definitely an intriguing combination choice with him. In the regards that Nemo actually could provide more attack up to her, it's definitely nice. But I have seen people saying like, oh, like this gets, for instance, like Nemo to loop really well. And I'm like, well, we have plenty of units that can loop really well, particularly in the arts class. So that's not that absurd of a thing, even to say like, oh, well, he can loop like up to a fourth time. There are other units that can also do this. So that's nothing novel in that regard. I've also seen people say like, oh, this can allow Tiamat to get to like a third NP. Don't do that. That's actually not good for you in general speaking. You don't want to necessarily overlap the NPs more than twice in Tiamat's case because of the fact that you will actually hit crit cap and it'll be kind of wasted. So in that regard, I'm just going to say, yes, he is actually synergistic with her. He can work really well with her, but don't kind of, miss the forest for the trees in that regard. So moving on to his actual refund numbers on screen, you guys can kind of see this is what he's going to look like. Nemo/Noah here can loop over just about everything. It's really not going to be a concern. His refund is actually quite nice, again, due to the fact that he has the 10% extra charge for animal allies, as well as himself just kind of getting 10% base. So those numbers are baked in here, and you guys can see you don't necessarily have to like max out his overkill numbers just to get him up to like even like an 80% number here. He can actually get, quite a bit of refund in that regard. Looking at actual compositions now on screen, you guys can see several that would work for him. He can work in a 2/2x Berserker node with double Castoria and Oberon. He can work basically in a 1/1x Caster node as long as he can get at least 2 overkill hits in wave 1 with double Castoria and Oberon. And he can work in, your standard 3/3x Berserker nodes, basically with just double Castoria and a Mystic code. And then potentially even just doing mixed sort of support setups like Castoria, Nero Bride, and Shufu as another potential option there. So you don't really have to like break the bank in order to make them work. And certainly there are other combinations, as we mentioned before, like Castoria and Tamamo with Oberon. The only difference there is going to be that you might need a little bit more overkill hits. So you'll see as we actually talk about damage numbers here where like the Tamamo comp can potentially come in. Looking at Noah's self-damage numbers here, you guys can see these are intriguing because he has both the giant and the super large. We've denoted it as super giant basically here, but pretty much they're both kind of the same. You can have one or the other, or you can stack both together. If you get both, that's going to result in some decent scalability, but this is not super effective modifiers. So it's not going to be insane scaling. It's just going to be, decent scaling, and scaling that is additive with other sources of like NP damage up or event power mod. So it just remains to be seen how effective he can be in the scenario that you choose to use him in. I don't think his damage output is bad by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think it's quite good. As you guys can see now on screen, the actual composition numbers, these are still neutral numbers as with the prior slide, but now they are actually in a proper comp with buffs being considered and factored in from external sources. And you can see he is a Black Rail Looper. He's going to be capable of producing quite a bit of firepower, and certainly if the power mods are in play, he will be quite nice. So where's the issue going to be here? Well, for instance, if we utilize him with double Castoria Oberon, this just kind of works. But if we utilize him with Tamamo and Oberon, like we mentioned before, we need 4 out of 15 overkill hits. That's not terrible, but this is just against 3 enemy Berserker waves. If you're up against something better than Berserkers, you might not need as much overkill hits or even them at all. It's just really going to depend. But you can see the Tamamo comp basically is actually a little bit more damage on wave 3 due to her having the party-wide NP damage up as well as the arts up. So that definitely is to her favor, but it's maybe not as nice on refund. So just be careful if you want to go with that variant for Noah. Comparingly, we can kind of look at Da Vinci Rider, and I hate to say it, when we were talking about Noah earlier on my lunch break when I was letting the dogs out, some people in VIP basically said that Da Vinci is kind of dead now because of this, and yes, I kind of agree. You can still use her. She's obviously not a bad unit, but she is beaten squarely in damage and simply does not have the same supportive capacity that Noah does. So to me, Noah is kind of the better option, and that's kind of a shame. I feel like at this point, especially with Mordred recently getting a buff, Da Vinci could probably use something. She's kind of stranded and left out a little bit in that regard. Bakine, however, can still be competitive, assuming you at least have her niches at play, but she will also kind of lose squarely in terms of raw damage output to him, though it is at least an interesting thing because demonic and evil is not altogether that rare, so she can definitely combine these up quite a bit and can hang with Noah in that regard. Odysseus is another intriguing option as he will just kind of squarely lose a little bit, but only in the sense that, like, he's not really going to have much else in terms of scalability to offer. He can absolutely beat Noah in terms of raw output, but it really is just going to depend on NP levels. And like we mentioned before, whether or not Noah's power mods come into play. The second they do, Odysseus just is kind of at a loss for words, but Odysseus does at least still have his unique utility of being able to remove defensive buffs before damage output. So that makes Odysseus a very hard unit to stop. Santa Nemo is another interesting comparison because we're comparing Nemo against Nemo at this point, and they're both AoE arts writers. Santa Nemo is obviously a welfare, so just kind of having him and checking it out, you guys can see raw damage output, you're actually looking at a little bit better numbers than normal Noah can output. Normal Noah will beat him when the power mods come into play, but basically you're looking at, you know, Santa Nemo also having the evil power mod, the super effective, super effective against evil niche there. And in that regard, he's basically just going to trounce Noah. So this is kind of interesting, and it leads me to a conclusion that I'm going to say here in a little bit. And then next up, we have Habitrot, who is just a sort of guaranteeable unit that you guys can get with your FP once you've completed LB6. Obviously, it might take you guys some time to get to NP5, but you can see this is very competitive with Noah's numbers, and really, you don't need too much to kind of get her online and get her working. So in that regard, this makes Noah an interesting character. He is certainly strong in terms of damage output, but he is not prohibitively strong enough that you got to say that I got to have him. In fact, comparing him against some of these other welfares, it's pretty clear to see that if you have those welfares, you kind of don't need Noah. So where is Noah going to provide value for your account? Well, basically in that supportive aspect. If you think about like combining him with other animal servants, if you think about the amount of charge he can provide, maybe you don't have a Da Vinci writer, or maybe you just have a rather weak Da Vinci writer like NP1 or something, Noah can be a decent pickup. He can absolutely be somebody that can be the sort of supportive, but also like nuker for your comp. He can be a looper. He's somebody that loops very well. His damage is certainly up to snuff, and he definitely at least has decent supportive capabilities. So in that regard, I don't think Noah is a bad unit, but he's also a unit that you definitely don't have to have due to the robustness of the competition and the welfares that are available. So let me know what you guys think about Noah. I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts as always. And again, do you guys see yourself rolling him? Did you already roll him? Which ascension is best? I will see you guys for the next one. Thank you all for watching. Have a good one. There you go. Greek mythology. So, obviously, this is not the same as the other ones. This is way more Noah, right? The thing about this is kind of still Nemo. And I don't know too much on Nemo's lore, per se, but Nemo is the Latin form, meaning no one, which is the same term Odysseus used in the Odyssey to basically trick someone into thinking like he wasn't anyone important. He wasn't Odysseus. So I don't know if that's where the Greek mythology male and Argo related stuff comes from, but I suspect it is. Dakaru's also a beautiful boy. Actually, I don't. Is this one for Musashi stuff? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's literally just people that triggered Musashi in the Grand Duel. And Wandjina, yeah, so like it is what it is. Beat Lost Soul aside, congrats. But yeah, I honestly like I feel like Noah's a very good unit. I feel like if you don't have some of those good options, roll for him. You won't regret it. But I'm also gonna say, like, if you have like Santa Nemo, if you have Habitrot, you also don't need him. It's not like a like dire thing that you have to roll for, right? So he's just kind of in a weird spot in that regard. I'm debating because I have barely any writers. Yeah, and that's definitely something you can go for. Like I said, I think like I think he's basically just a much improved Da Vinci writer at this point. Like Da Vinci writer is not a bad unit, but Da Vinci writer's damage output is like kind of pathetic. And this is why like so many people have always recommended like getting like NP2 to shore the number up because it really does help. But like, if you just have that NP1 Da Vinci writer, I mean, holy crap! I probably should have asked Avalon to send it to me, but the Mordred numbers would have been a really interesting comparison. I have NP3 on it now, yeah. So like, I mean, I'm gonna say like, if you have that strong of a Da Vinci, like, do you need Noah? No, not really. But, and I guess like the one thing you could say is like at least Da Vinci is not conditional with anything that she does, whereas like Noah kind of is. But I did feel the need as well to kind of address the whole like Tiamat synergy here, because this is like I feel like a lot of people don't understand how Tiamat works, dude. Like they don't get that she actually provides 2 stages of overcharge, and that 2 of them provide 2 stages of overcharge, which means everybody's at 500% already. So like for instance, comparing to I have to go in here to find him. Comparing to Noah and like him providing overcharge to the party, this actually doesn't really have much of an effect on her. What does is, well, not the NP damage, but the party attack and the additional attack for animal allies, which Tiamat qualifies for. So he is providing Tiamat with 40% attack up. That's very nice as a unit. So I'm not going to say he doesn't have synergy. He does. Like he's really nice with her. But it really just depends on what you're trying to do. And the thing that you guys are going to notice, like I said, with the Tiamat comps is 1, they're slow. 2, they basically are going to revolve around like, do you actually have like effective units or at least neutral units? So, you know, you're not going to want to be like using like Noah with Tiamat against like assassins. It's not going to go well for Noah if his cards come up. He might still kill depending on the health values, but it's like, yeah, you'd probably be better off going with a different unit instead. I love the idea of using Noah and Tamamo together. There's like at least some synergy there. Not really like yes, this would make Tamamo card harder. But let's be honest, if you're like looping with somebody with Tamamo in the party, you're just looping. You're not really going to be like trying to card with Tamamo too much. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of like plenty of Archinas that can use Tamamo. I feel like a lot of people just don't use her. But Tamamo has always been good for damage output. Always. Always, 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 always. So that's something I think a lot of people underestimate about her. Like, basically, she has the 50% arts up. This matches Castoria's. And she has party-wide MP damage of 30%. That is better than Castoria's attack up. And if you use Oberon alongside, that gets doubled up. So Tamamo has actually always been the better option for damage. Where's the problem? Tamamo does not have the upfront charge without using her NP. And Tamamo does not have as good of NP gain as, like, say, Castoria. So she's certainly usable. And if you have a unit that has good enough refund, you can kind of do, like, Tamamo and Castoria, and you can get away with the best of both worlds. So... From what you said, he's a skip for me. I have Astolfo, and I just need to wait for my Princess Liz, and I want Ryder Da Vinci. She's so cute. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, Noah is not, like, the next coming of, like, Tiamat or Melisson or Ibuki Doji Berserker or anything like that. Like, he's not, like, on the level of, like, whoa, this is power creep. It is a little bit of power creep, but it's more power creep directed like Da Vinci Writer's way than anything else. This banner is an extremely easy skip for me. Not really a fan. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I think he is actually a pretty like viable and usable unit. I think the people that roll him will certainly be happy to have him. But if you have your sights set on other role plans, or you're maybe wanting to see like what comes out towards the end of the year, because chat, we are getting into the final crunch. You have 3 months left in a year. I know that's scary saying that, but like you have 3 months left in the year. That means you have 3 months to save for like whatever's going to come for the finale, Halloween. We know we're not getting a Christmas event this year, so you don't have to worry about that one. But yeah, it's like, who knows? There could still be plenty of things up their sleeve. Plus, we're still getting all the banners for all other units, at least for like the remaining grand duels. So you guys still have plenty of options to roll on. You don't have to feel obligated to roll on any one banner. I just love the fact that Noah's an FGO. He looks so cool. I actually I hate this Ascension. I think this Ascension is dumb. I love this Ascension. This Ascension is like some like, if you guys have seen the anime Magi, that's what it reminds me of. This is like some like top tier shit in terms of that. So this Ascension's pretty cool. Actually, yeah, we don't have the sprites in. Of course, feet. Final chapter must have some OP servants, hopefully. Probably. Now he's a must roll for Cat? No. Cad, what would you do if Noah spooks you? He cannot spook. He is limited. Like, the only way I could potentially get Noah would be if I felt like rolling the banner would be a good idea for the craft essences. And at least with how they're currently presented, like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I feel like Beyond the Flood is worse than the Tunguska equivalent. Let me go double check that. But basically the Tamamo C from Tunguska. Where did we get Tunguska? Was it 2021? Was it that long ago? Oh my god. So, like, that long ago on JP, but like for NA, this would be 2023. So this is almost 2 years ago now, which is wild to say that. Yeah, see, Empty Garden by comparison is at MLB 50% gauge, critical damage, buster, and quick 10%, all attack scaling. I think this is a much, much better and more viable CE than Beyond the Flood. Because this one at least has power mod and NP gain. It's not terrible. It has the same like modifiers down here for the event, but this is my non-starter. The fact that they made that split stat is such an L on their part. Because this also means this is gonna have a hard time like beating out like a Black Grail or anything like that for damage output. In that regard, I guess you could say they did us all a favor. They didn't make it a meta CE. So we don't have to feel obligated to roll, right? To know 5-star C this time out. Yeah, it happens. Bond 30% is a lot. It is. I think, like I said before, I wouldn't care too much about any of these effects, including the damage output. Bond is really the only actual attraction here for these. I think, like, yeah, you could roll like your FP to try to get some of these, and that could be a thing, but at the end of the day, it just is what it is. ONA just posted the 3,000 days social media campaign. Did they really? 5 days out? Let me check this out. Yep. There you go, chat. So, we've pretty much known this. Like, I put out that video to prepare you guys for it because I knew this would be a thing. And it's something that I think a lot of people are, like, just letting slip under the radar. Like the amount of, like, reactions just to my, like, Twitter posting about this campaign was kind of insane. Because normally people don't react to my stuff too much. So, like, it was nice. I liked seeing people actually be like, oh, hey, this is coming. This is big. Like, oh, man. Like, eight days to bot those interactions. That's true. I love the Dexter memes, man. Still can't finish any of the grand fights. How old is your account? For newbies, these Cs come in handy? Yeah. I mean, like, I think when you're new, like, any craft essence can kind of be viable and useful, right? Speaking of. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I'm caught up in that regard. I'm gonna have a hard time actually getting, people that have the CEs. Do you know Exit 8? What do you mean? Like 30 days? Oh, yeah. I mean, like, you probably would have a hard time, at least at that age. Like, even this account's like 3 months old now, but, like, I say that it's not like I've, like, actively played it constantly throughout the 3 months. I've made sure that I log in every day and I, like, you know, make blue apples and stuff, but, quite literally, like, I have not played it enough. It's probably about the same age as yours in that regard. And, like, yeah, I think this account would struggle to do, like, any sort of, like, grand fight. Let's see. So I actually have somebody that has MLB of the silver, so we're gonna take it because I don't think I'll get that again if I try. This account also did not roll. This account will be rolling the 3,000 days banner. That is going to be really huge. So this account will be rolling in about 5 more days, which is one of the reasons why I've been saying hey, I kind of need to get more story done, because I would like as much quartz as possible to try to secure Castoria. Whatever. I'll just send it. Exit 8 is a game? I can't say I'm familiar with it. Came back to create a new account for Olga. I finished main story in 20 days. Yeah, I believe it. I don't think that's that crazy. The longest part for me doing story is just the sheer amount of time I wait on loading, for instance, on my emulator. I spend more time loading, I feel than I actually do in the fights. By the way, you're still with the black background? Oh, thank you. I did forget. There you go. Are you going to try to roll for Morgan too? Morgan would not be a terrible pickup for this account, but the first and absolute priority is Castoria. From there, I would rather have an Arts Looper because it just works better. But Morgan at least would allow me to do actual invincible comp. So I can't say that's a bad pickup by any stretch of the imagination. I'd have to look at so what other banners do we have coming up this year, chat? Obviously something like Thanksgiving is a little bit of a nobody knows scenario. But yeah, we got Ptolemy. Obviously Wandjina's active right now. Summer BB at Christmas. Summer BB's not very high on the priority. A horror game about being trapped in a Japanese train station. Okay, that's not too bad. I would be more afraid of being trapped on a Japanese train. Kenshin would not be bad for the buff removal, but I do already have Castoria Berserker. In that regard, and you can see, this is kind of my best AoE is Ace right now, which Ace not too strong for damage output overall. She is for a caster, but casters in general not very strong for damage output. New player here. I'm also going to do the same rolling for Castoria. Yep, that's a good idea. It's Castoria is arguably the game's best unit. So if you get her, it just makes your life easier. She's just a very good support. She can work with multiple compositions, and she has the capability to make your teams nigh unkillable. So New Year's, there's a Koyan banner. Do we have any AoE Arts Looper banners besides Ptolemy? I guess we have Takaru at New Year's. And we have Nemo as a welfare. Wait, chat, who is the SSR? Was it just Nemo on Christmas this year? On an A, I mean. Saber Shiki? Saber Shiki is not who I would consider really a looper. You can Black Grail looper, which is hilarious, but that is a very disjointed 3-turn. Yuck, what are these cards? Any guess of the Grand Assassin and Grand Archer? Grand Assassin, like I said before, King Hassan absolutely makes sense, but he's supposedly stepped down from the role. I don't think Tez is a wild guess. I think Tez actually could be your Grand Assassin. Grand Archer's a lot more up in the air. You could see just about anything. You could see Ishtar, you could see Gilgamesh, you could see Super Orion, you could see Durga. I think like that one's really open-ended. And it really just kind of depends on like what are the devs gonna try to do about it. Let's go with the triple buster chain. Wait, Lohi's next year? Yeah. Lohi, I will probably pick up on an A because I did not pick her up on JP. And there have been a couple of really good instances of using her. Can't be Orion since he renounced in LB5. Like I said, I think just because like a unit renounces it does not necessarily preclude it, but Jarcher at New Year's. Jarcher would not be bad in terms of like loopability for a new account. The problem would be Jarcher is also not particularly high damage. I'm curious with the Grandcaster. Grandcaster's going to be really interesting. I think, like I said, there is a reason that they saved that one for last. Scotty is Christmas too? Ooh. Yeah, see, I wouldn't mind picking up Scotty. At this point, like, I'm gonna end up having, like, all of the supports and, like, none of the actual damage units. But, it doesn't make things impossible. It just means you try to take a damage unit. The issue is, like, in events like this, for instance, where everybody just puts their stuff up only on the supports, then you try to take a damage dealer, but you can't because people don't actually have the CEs equipped. So that makes things a little bit spicier in that regard. Gilgamesh deserves to be Grand Archer, to be honest. Supposedly, Gilgamesh has also said that he does not want it. So, like... Yeah, we were just talking about a power. Grandcaster being last makes me feel like Solomon might get involved. Yeah, like I was saying before, like Solomon is like my dark horse guess. He makes a lot of sense. They'll probably have to do some like major lore like stretching for that to be the case. But I get it. I can easily see why one, people would want it, two, they would want to do it, regardless of maybe considerations to like not, right? Why even NP? Just card. Just got a movie? Interesting. I could see Archer Ishtar because she's forced herself to be. I could see Archer Ishtar because simply like of when you start thinking about like the lore of some of these characters, some of them do make sense, right? Like for instance, if Grand Rider had been Drake, that would have made a lot of sense. Drake is somebody that's actually reached Avalon. So like you can understand how like somebody that's capable of such feats can be a Grand, right? In Ishtar's case, Ishtar is a goddess. And that at least means she has like the strength requirement that you would think of when you think of a Grand. Now, obviously there's been rules kind of prior to this of like, oh, divine characters cannot be Grand, but it's like, yeah, and then again, what's his face for the Lancers got it? Indra. So like I feel like stuff like that's just kind of out the window now, and you could just consider just about anybody. Indra's from Persona 4. I'm pretty sure it's the same artist. If not, they're definitely emulating the style. Kind of Archer. Hercules could be Grand Archer. Yeah, I was gonna say, because they made the Berserker one, I don't think they'll double up. I think that's one that the devs will just shy away from in that regard. Oh, I do have the Skill Lord. Okay, I didn't remember that I did. First, I would have been tempted to make all the grand saber faces for the meme. I mean, I certainly would not have like wanted them to do all grand saber faces. I will kind of be disappointed if there is no grand saber face, which is what it is. But like in that regard, like yeah, I think like Artoria probably should have been grand saber, or if they weren't going to do that, maybe Castoria, right? But like it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to be like terribly bent out of shape over something like that. I think the devs are just trying to make interesting choices that are fun. And I think they know that if they pick a saber face, some people are going to be like, ah. Hmm. Indra's artist is Paco. Yeah, but I feel like Paco was definitely going for the like persona style, right? And in that regard, I'm gonna say like I feel like Paco's style has just always been pretty similar to Persona. Like I don't know. Chat, does anyone know more about Paco? Has Paco actually worked on Persona? Like if you told me that, I might believe you. I'll be a little bit disappointed if we don't get OG Saber in some form in the final chapter. A little disappointed. I will be livid. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. They've kind of shafted the Saber faces this year. Like for the final year on JP. And I'm like, so basically people like me that have been buying Saber face after Saber face after Saber face that have helped support the game. And it's like the year that you give us like nothing is the final year. That's kind of a slap in the face at that point. Just fucking complete the meme. Like, so in that regard, like, I hope they do. If they don't include Saber in like the finale in some way, and it's not like an important or an impactful thing, I'll kind of be upset with them. It would sour my opinion on the devs. I didn't get Summer Ultra, yeah. There was a Saber face in that one Olga fight in LB7. Wait, what? Is that a Saber face caster in your team? Yes. I don't know who the modern Persona artist is. The PS2 era artist, more or less retired. Yeah, like, and that's I suspect what it is that like Persona was a thing, and Paco was influenced by it. So like Paco probably like liked and played the Persona games. If you told me that, I would believe you. And I think when that happens, sometimes artists try to emulate like their inspiration. Okay? So whenever they are inspired by something, they try to do similar stuff. And I see this all the time. Like an artist style is usually a amalgamation of their favorite artists. If that makes any sense. He's done Persona fan art, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He's done 5 designs at least. Interesting. Chat, it's Babylonia time again. We continue. Because I would like to get this. I would at least like to get to like Solomon Temple of Time before, and maybe have it complete before the 3,000 days. Split node. Oh, we have Wait, we have Merlin. I don't remember getting Merlin this early as a support. Like I knew he's in Singularity 7. I did not remember him being like the go-to here. Sorry, let me switch some of these units out for units I wish to bond. There you go, get Medea in there. Oh yeah, maybe the OG Mystic Code will win out. It might get to rank 10 before anything else. Merlin was pretty early. Yeah, I just didn't remember him this early in Babylonia. That's Merlin with the Buffton P. Yep. Yeah, so if you're ever curious why people say like Merlin might have been a unit that got nerfed, it's because in Babylonia as a support, when you go to use him, so like normally if you use Merlin and you use his Noble Phantasm, it heals at the end of turns. And that's it. That's all it does. In the case of Babylonia, the NPC version that's a support heals up front and at the end of turns. So like it heals when you first use the NP, then it heals at the end of turns as well. So like that's kind of hilarious that they did that. That is a lot stronger because it makes Merlin a little bit more of a like less of a sustain and more of a just like he can immediately respond to damage threats, which is really, really nice. But that is not how he got actually implemented into the game. So I suspect the devs realized that was maybe a little bit too strong, and they said, let's not do that. Literally unplayable now. Yeah, I wouldn't say that by any means. I just realized I never heard from that person today. It will. We just barely complete the 3-turn loop. So you can see this is a little bit the power of Ibuki, having that 50% charge. As I've mentioned before, charge is just generally better for like newer accounts and stuff because you're maybe not going to have as robust a supports. You're maybe not going to have enough like brute force capability to like force people to loop. So having charge on a unit means that they're going to have the capacity to at least help themselves out. This was a 2-2-3 node. So the first wave was 2 enemies, the second wave was 2 enemies, and the third wave was 3 enemies. That meant we only had 2 enemies to hit instead of 3, so it meant our refund was a little bit worse. Ibuki still managed to make it work because she had 50% charge. So it's one of those deals where, like I said, sometimes having the charge can really help out. Usually, if you're a refund-based unit, you will have higher refund than a charge-based unit. However, it will also mean that you are more susceptible to changes in a node structure. So instead of having 3 unit waves, you now have 2 unit waves. All of a sudden, a refund-based unit begins to struggle because they maybe don't have enough refund to get through it. So that's one of the reasons why you want to consider other options. And having both is usually the best scenario, but sometimes you just end up in a weird spot. Let's get Medea out of there. She hit bond 5. You can see actually a lot of my account is already bonded up. That's not bad. I'm kind of just trying to focus on units that I think like actually might have an upgrade that I'd want to go for and need. Probably right there. David is also another potentially useful one. Yes. Yeah, no. Babylonia, at least for the early bits, kind of drags on. And then it starts getting like really interesting at a certain point. So here we go. Here's Ishtar, and she has the Armlet of Venus. It's gonna decrease damage taken. I actually did not remember this being a fight, so I thought this was like an AoE node of archers. Hence the reason I took Lartoria here. Lartoria should still be able to like do some solid work, but this is maybe not going to be as easy as I maybe thought. Also don't have the right Mystic Code equipped. I'll actually put the quick card third. It's a little bit less damage, but I'll get a little bit better star generation and NP generation. And I'm probably going to need all the NP gen I can get. You can see she still did decent work. In fact, if I had popped her Buster buff and Oberon's Buster buff, I might have killed. But the question will be, is she going to like have invuln or something now? And there it is. So that's kind of what I was expecting to happen. All right, so it's 1 turn duration, but you can see she also charged herself. Gotta be a little bit careful here in that regard. We're just gonna go for the Mighty Chain here, put Artoria's card third, try to get as much charge out of that as possible. Oh, right, yeah, so it doesn't matter. So because she had invuln, even though we had a 100% chance to crit, we can't crit. So because we can't crit, we don't get the additional NP gain that we would get off of normally critting. And you can see she's about to NP, but I'm about to not care. Unfortunately, Oberon soaked some stars from us, but this is still a Brave Chain with a Mana Burst steroid active, so even the third card Buster should do some decent damage if this didn't kill, and it did. Yeah, so there you go. So we dealt 466k, so I probably could have just one-shot her if I had popped everything. Sometimes better to play it safe, but you never know. Oberon's a little bit of a spicy consideration when you suddenly have a boss fight that you weren't expecting and you're relying on Oberon. Because, again, if you use Oberon's third skill, you brick the unit and you don't kill, you're in for a bad time at that point. So you got to be a little bit careful. Just keep going with Penguin. Buki Doji here is really, really nice. He's doing solid work for us, just kind of looping through. We're not requiring too much in the way of other additional inputs. Yeah, I could have definitely used Oberon's and P to put her to sleep for a turn. Could have bought me some time. If you don't know damage calculations, Oberon's risky. And I don't like sit there actively calculating it, but I do kind of like have a just from years of playing and talking about the units and all that stuff. Like, I know about how strong the units are. I know about how much Oberon's damage boost is going to be. So like, I have a pretty good idea of how much damage I can do. And that's why, like, you saw me go like, wait, if I had actually popped everything, I might have just killed. Because I kind of realized that running like kind of just some like mental calculations at that point. But that's something that you'll learn over time. You'll learn to become familiar with it, and you're probably going to mess it up. You'll probably, if you're using Oberon, you'll get his third skill wrong at times. It is what it is. The worst thing that you can do is like brick a unit when you didn't mean to. So like you accidentally use Oberon's third skill on somebody on turn 2 instead of turn 3 in a 3-turn loop, and you go like, oh crap. Yeah, that can happen. You don't want to do that. Also, and this is actually probably a good time to talk about it, but I've mentioned it before, but it kind of becomes a little bit more relevant over time. So we can see if we look, this is a battle 1 out of 2. So we don't need 3 turns, right? Wrong. There's 6 enemies remaining. So this is still going to be basically a 3-turn loop for me, assuming battle 2 doesn't have that. When in doubt, if you feel like you cannot 3-turn, there are basically 2 different like ways that you can handle it. Obviously, you can throw caution to the wind and you can pop all of your buffs turn 1 and you can still try to go for the 3-turn. But then you might fail and the buffs fall off and you're maybe not close enough to actually land, like the clear, the kill. That can be spicy depending on the comp that you're using or depending on how much health you leave. So if you're ever not sure, one of the best things you can do is not pop any buffs turn 1, card, and then consider popping buffs. Why? Because you might end up securing for yourself the ability to 3-turn from that point on. It is better to kind of fight the initial wave that is usually a weaker wave without buffs than to lose your buff on the third wave that usually has boss enemies with really high health values. You want to be able to one-shot those if you can. Kind of struggling against the front enemies that are pretty weak is usually not a bad draw. So at that point, it's just something you've got to consider, and it really just depends on what you're trying to do. I'll just go ahead and pop Proto Merlin's NP since we managed to have it. A rough estimate, yep. Especially early on, since most of your other units are probably not leveled. Okay, so I can give you guys a little bit of a cheat in regards to that. So, for instance, like, what if I were going to use Oberon with Buki? Well, this is turn 1. How much damage did she do? 290k. Well, there's your ballpark right there. If you pay attention in some of the earlier waves when you're using an Oberon unit, you should kind of know. Now, there are different things that can factor in. Like, for instance, in like Lartoria's case, maybe I had like a power mod active in the first wave or something like that. Or maybe because I'm using like Buster units, I'm in a double Koyanskaya comp and I'm doubling up skills. So like all of a sudden damage numbers will change. But this does give you a little bit of a ballpark estimate to kind of guess. And you could assume that like Oberon and the amount of impact he's going to have, it's like, oh, he might double the unit's damage. Well, he might not, depending on the unit. It might depend. These are things that you'll get used to over time, but it at least gives you an idea to kind of like go, oh, okay, I see. That's how much I did. Now I can probably get the job done. Versus you going like, oh man, I just dealt 300k and the enemy on the final wave is 800k. I don't think I'm going to clear that one clean. unless I factor in maybe I pop the Mystic Code on top of it, maybe I get cards, then there's maybe some considerations. And maybe it's just about like not even necessarily outright killing, but getting close enough to the kill. So like the possibility of like, oh, well, I want to play it safe and I don't want to pop Oberon's third skill, so now I end up only doing like 200k here, and then the ghost just starts like AoE chaining me down and kills some units. As opposed to maybe I pop it and it doesn't kill, but I brick the unit. But maybe it's close enough where like, oh, now it only has like 10k and I can just easily card that out. That's still safe, right? But you got to be careful with stuff like that. You got to actually know how much you can do. Also, behold, turn 4. So I did exactly what I should not have done. They'll take the effective cards here and hope for the best. I got 10 more writer statues to get. Good luck. Yeah, there are different like strategies that you guys can employ, including just being a little bit more observant to the game's mechanics to help yourself out. If it looks like I don't pay attention, it's because I am so used to playing the game after years and streaming the game. I've become very good at multitasking, reading chat, talking with you guys, articulating my thoughts, while still watching everything that goes on the screen. Because I'm so used to where everything is. It's not like information overload to me. But if you're someone that's new, maybe it does get to be a little bit spicy for you, and that's perfectly fine. I understand that. We're going to go a little bit for the refund here instead of necessarily the damage, but actually we probably should have gone for damage because this is pretty close enough. I keep underestimating this Ibuki's buster damage output. And yeah, there you go. Ghosts can drain you, which is another nasty little impact. They do drop ghost lanterns, but at the end of the day, it kind of just depends on like really what you're looking for from some of these units. But ghosts are, for instance, like I said, a unit that can drain you. So they're one of the units that you maybe need to watch out for getting drained back below 100%. It's not super common, but it can happen, particularly if you like go like, okay, I don't want to NP this turn, and then you let the ghost get a turn, and then it does that. That's how you can go like, oh crap. Cat is a pro. I'm not like a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination. I just know all of the mechanics that are going on. Whether or not I execute it flawlessly is an issue. And that usually, like I said, sometimes I do get distracted by chat and I don't like pay close attention. And that's usually where I get in trouble. The more attention I pay, the more like singularly focused I am, the better I am. And that's why like usually if I'm off stream, I actually don't make a whole lot of mistakes. I'm usually pretty good at getting through fights and stuff if I'm not distracted by multiple other things. If I am trying to do other stuff and doing it, and then like I maybe miss a like key thing or something like that, that's not a good thing. And that can definitely backfire on me. I'm getting used to how units work now after a couple of months. Yeah, it's a good idea. Like I said before, if you're new to the game, play around with units. You will find yourself, at least at bare minimum, kind of getting used to things. So I don't know if this is a high health enemy. This could be cats. But I actually think we're gonna go with Tezcatlipoca, ironically enough. And, well, we could go with the... I don't like that this Tez has a Bond C on instead of a damage sheet, but it's still level 100 in P2, so it's going to do a whole lot. And I'll at least get more Bond out of it. Ironically enough, there are different Bond Cs. I haven't talked too much about them because I don't have any of the mana prisms to get them yet. But... basically, you can see there's a Bond C like Chaldea Tea Time here, where if you take it yourself, you will only actually get 5%. But if you select it from a friend's support, you will get 15%. So it's really, really nice. It's a good way if you want to put that on units that you want people to take. It's a good way to get a whole lot of FP. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and send this and hope that it is not Kets. But it might very well be. Or it might be more of the Lanugo enemies, I don't know. Ah, thank God. It's the Uridimus. The guys that drop seeds. So, Tez is a weird one. He basically is an AoE arts assassin, but he does really solid damage and has a lot of charge. The thing with Tez is you want to make sure that you pop his third skill first. Why? Because it gives himself guts. His first skill, on the other hand, increases the attack for all allies that have guts, including himself. So he'll get more attack on top of the amount of attack that it would normally give by having the guts on himself. Don't worry about like the sunlight battlefield block. It's not like a huge concern, but it is a thing. I actually should have done hers. I did not think about that one too well. Still, it's a 1 out of 1 fight, so whatever. Send it. Do a mighty chain there and hope that this does enough to kill. That face creeps me out. Well, it is a mask, so. There you go. You can see Tez does really solid damage, particularly if you get an invested one like this. Actually, it looks like my Bedivere is bond 5 already, so I can get him out. Have you met Columbus yet? Oh boy. Woo indeed, Belmonte. Ba-bum, ba-dum, 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 ba-da-da. Do I use Tez with Bard, Gawain, Summer Gareth, or Aussie? Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. Though to be fair, you're probably fine because all of those are Buster units, as opposed to like Ozzy or sorry, Tez himself being an arts unit. So it's just split. I think I'm about to come up against some annoying enemies though here, since the story title is what it is. Actually, I am surprised I have not fought Kets yet. Or maybe not as far in the story as I'm thinking. So the sea tentacles are an interesting creature. Let's see, what material do they drop? I do not remember. Yeah, that one just dropped QP. Shells? No, they're not normally the ones that drop shells. Usually, demonic crabs drop shells. Yeah, I'm actually trying to think of what the ones that they do. This is anti-sun thing of work to counter Gawain's Grail buff and Camelot. Somebody asked me that when I was fighting him, and I was like, I actually don't know. I suspect not, because it is a fight-specific gimmick, as opposed to the actual, like, sunlight battlefield. Oh, just a calm, cool Enkidu with a even higher health, a Agulu. Well, shouldn't be too big of a problem. Should easily overcome it. But yeah, I haven't actually done any testing, but I suspect it would not impact it because it is a again, like a guaranteed. Ooh, I chose my cards correct. There we go. So Proto Merlin actually managed to finish Enkidu off. I did just a little too much, or sorry, a little too little damage with the Noble Phantasm. So picking the cards in the way I did actually allowed Proto Merlin to be effective. She would not have been effective against the other enemy. So she was able to deal effective damage against Enkidu, did just enough card damage to kill him, to finish him off after the NP. And then we got to alternate to Ibuki Doji's card, which actually finished it. So sometimes you get a really lucky draw like that. And there we go. We got some Lenugos and Chains. Isn't it a white box buff anyways? Yes. Yeah, the Origin is technically not a sunlight battlefield for it. It is a fight-specific gimmick, so it probably does not. But it would be cool if it did. It would also kind of be power creep. Oh boy, a question mark node. I'm going to go ahead and give you some sage advice. If it's a question mark node, look it up. If you don't want to, then my advice is at least to like kind of take like a berserker, because that's just your best bet. Berserkers are effective against everything except foreigners, and spoiler alert, you will not battle a foreigner at all in part 1, so you're safe for that, at least for part 1. Doesn't mean it's the best choice, but have to go with it sometimes. This might be the Lamu. I just bring Summer Kaba. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Oh, never mind. It's a 6 million HP Tiamat. So, long story short, you definitely don't have to kill the 6 million HP Tiamat. We can try, but you definitely do not have to kill her. I'm just going to focus on trying to loop and kill the side ads, which is probably the victory condition, is to kill all ads. Or again, maybe just stay alive for X amount of turns. The problem with Gorgon here is that Gorgon is going to basically deal AoE attacks. They shouldn't hit terribly hard, but they will charge me quite a bit. You can see, look at that NP gain. They're each multiple lasers, multiple hits. So 200% charge on Ibuki Doji there. So the concern, though, is that not looking too hot on the living side of things. I think everybody else will be fine if I just do that. And maybe that as well. Who is Gorgon? All I see is Tiamat mod check. Yes. Technically the name is Tiamat, but this is Gorgon. And I'm not going to get deeper into that for spoiler reasons, but again, this one is an interesting one, but like I said, usually when you spot something like this, it is a gimmick fight. It is got a like set duration to it or some sort of special win condition. It is not a kill 6 million HP. That is eventually going to be a thing that you'll have to overcome, but at this early stage of the game, no, you do not have to. Okay, just going to pop the party-wide invuln so I don't have to worry about that. Pop the Mystic Code buff. And steal all of the stars back from Proto Merlin. As well as give myself a crit damage buff. We are going all in on damage output. We're going to go ahead and lead off with waivers in P, and this can actually backfire on me if the win condition is for Tiamat here to get off her noble phantasm, because I just drained her. But usually that's not the case. And since she's not getting to her noble phantasm very fast, it's probably not. Like I said, win condition is probably kill the side ads. So there you go. Oh, well, never mind. It's not over yet. Guess we're going to pop that and we're going to continue the loop. And a single white box buff as well. Yeah, they do that sometimes. In the case of Camelot, they're all Grail buffs from basically the Lion King. So technically the origin is not the unit itself, it's coming from another unit. So it makes sense that they're like a white box buff. And technically I didn't even look at the white box buff here, but you can see it didn't matter. So again, not sure what the win condition was. It was certainly not 5 turns, because we didn't make it to 5 turns. It probably was kill all enemies, and then she did kind of her special move there, and then from there you probably just had to live a turn. So sometimes they get a little bit convoluted, but they make perfect sense. At least if you've read the story. Do X amount of damage. It could have been. But like I said, given the fact that they gave you 6 ads there, it was probably just kill the ads. Oh, look. An Avenger. So this is probably one of your first instances of facing an extra class. Avengers are in their own triangle, kind of like how you have like the Knight triangle and the Cavalry triangle for the base classes. Avengers deal more damage to rulers. Rulers deal more damage to moon cancers, and moon cancers deal more damage to avengers. So we're up against an avenger, so we want to take a moon cancer, because they will also take less damage from an avenger as well. So it's just actually going for the hard counter. So let's see if we can find a moon cancer on sport. Oh, look! A moon cancer. Now, technically RQ is AoE, but the amount of damage output here is probably going to be pretty nasty, so I'm just going to go with it. Because it is what it is. I could certainly put Oberon for more damage synergy, but given the fact that we pretty much know this is a boss fight, Proto Merlin's probably the safer choice. So we'll just go with that. And I will switch things up here and go with the OG Mystic Code, since it'll at least provide effective damage. Ruler was in Orleans, yeah. But just in case people forgot, because Orleans was a hot second ago, you go with it. Why not regular Merlin? I don't have regular Merlin. In that regard, so if I had regular Merlin, he would actually be easier for me to skill up and level up. Ironically enough. Okay, 2 million HP. I still don't think I have to actually kill, but we can try. Let's just send it. So she is at least skill sealed for right now. So Archetype Earth coming in hot. I got about 261k there. It's not bad. Oh boy. Gotta love how she's skill sealed and she still uses a skill. But it's probably, again, like a fight gimmick. Stuff like that happens, and there's not much you can do about it. However, I can protect the entire party, at least for the duration of this. Unfortunately, I can't utilize my cards effectively because Waver is stunned, so. When in doubt, just put your cards last in that sequence. aka put them later, the actual effective cards, just so you get the slot bonus if nothing else. They're still petrified. Is she gonna keep reapplying that? That may be bad. I do not remember what the gimmick of this fight is, so I may be just doing it wrong. I can't. So this is the other problem. I could select this card, but I can't select a Noble Phantasm if I'm stunned. It is what it is. There's no actual like reason I need to specifically press the Noble Phantasm. I just wanted to. But that can come in handy to know if you end up trying to, like, say, use a cleanse Noble Phantasm before somebody else uses their Noble Phantasm, but they're stunned. You won't be able to do it. Even though you could cleanse before their turn, or like their action would be up, the game physically will not let you select a stunned unit's Noble Phantasm during the card selection screen. So it is what it is. Perfect target for Summer Castoria. Sweet. Split again. I do not believe this is a boss. So we will send it. I find it funny that I keep getting the exact same people on support, but it's because I don't have a whole lot of friends yet on this account. I have about 30 right now, which is actually doing really good for an account of this age. But it is what it is. Dome and Timo going in with Berserker. Yeah, I could have used an Alter Ego there because it was 2 Cavalry class enemies. But I just figured I would spend a lot of time fishing for that. Gotta love it. A 1 out of 3. Is probably in my best interest, especially since I didn't take the best Mystic code, to kind of just card this one. Now, both my caster and my pretender are not effective against a rider. Just something I've got to be watchful of. Basically, against a single enemy, a Looper's not going to get a whole lot of actual proper refund. So it's why you don't see me like popping buffs or wasting my Noble Phantasm, is because I don't feel like I'll actually get enough to warrant this. So it's better for me to actually just sit here carding if I can. I'm actually using her Noble Phantasm to kind of heal. Because the Ugalu can do quite a bit of damage. Especially now that he has a crit buff. Okay, so now I'm still 1 out of 3. I don't want to NP, but I can potentially 3-turn if I can kill him here. So that's what we're actually going to go after. And we should have the carding power to do it. Ibuki definitely hits hard with her buffs are up. And we will. And we even got the lucky crit. Once he has a few of those buffs stacked, he gets nasty. Yep. Alright, this is unfair, but it is what it is. So, we do again have 50% charge here, 20% charge here, and another 50 here, which means we have 120%. That's more than I need. I will probably not refund too well against this. So what I can do is I can probably do something like pop both attack buffs here. That still leaves me with 50 and basically 40 over here, which is 90%. I could probably get about 10% refund off of one enemy. So we're going to go for it. We're going to pray to God that we kill, because if not, we're in trouble. And our buffs will fall off. but we kill. See, my eyes have gotten so attuned that sometimes I can like actually just tell how much damage I did just from the individual numbers. But sometimes it's a little bit difficult depending on how the actual damage is displayed, because certain NPs are just a little bit nasty with their animations. I mean, up with the Sphinx, it was a 111 node, but we still managed to do it in a pretty like decent time, considering we did not have like an actual single target unit to loop through. But this is basically just a monster battle node at this point. And it looks like we got a gold drop. So there you go. We got all 3 gold materials. They were probably guaranteed or had a really high chance, but I'll take it. Certainly better than having to farm them. Mount Ebba. So I think this is actually probably a good stopping point. We are now in section 10. We're nearing about the like halfway-ish part of the story. So now we're getting somewhere in Babylonia. Babylonia is going to start getting harder from here on out. But like I said before, this is a good stopping point. So we'll stop here and let's see if I have anybody on to raid. I do. Mr. CZ is on and he is playing Hollow Knight. So I'm going to send you guys over his way. If you guys have never watched CZ, he's a member of my stream team, a good buddy of mine. He usually streams polar opposite times of me. Like I stream in the evening, he streams in the morning, my time. But that's because he's actually like completely on the other side of the world from me. But he is, I guess, up early with his stream here. So go give Mr. CZ some love. If you guys have never checked him out before, make sure you do. I will see you guys probably tomorrow. I gotta like work on some stuff here around the house, but I should be around and able to stream. So I don't know what it'll be yet. Just again, stay tuned. And if you haven't already, get on the Discord. It's an easy way to keep in touch and know when I go live. So again, thank you guys for watching. Have a good weekend if I don't get to see you. Later.